Chapter 787. Content. Upon reading this, Lu Wu understood why the Iron Blood Alliance needed to recruit the extraterrestrial forces for help. After doing all this, Lu Wu tore open the space barrier with the players and left the celestial world. During the investigation, Lu Wu gradually understood why this force was so rich. The Holy Spirit clan had an omniscient and omnipotent boss. By sharing some of the power of the Holy Spirit rule with his subordinates, they could perceive everything in the world. This was because the talent of adaptive growth represented infinite possibilities. The second was the Zur clan. Upon reading this, Lu Wu was curious. Why would such a huge force need to recruit fighters? Was there anything they couldn't handle? Immortal Realm. 10,000 Holy Spirit stones. It was a special system that synchronized the growth of technology and cultivation. The huge amount of wealth was accumulated during the growth of this force. However, since other races could set up a sales network in the information trading area, even if they couldn't compare to the Holy Spirit clan, they must have their own characteristics. Otherwise, the information trading would have been monopolized by the Holy Spirit clan. This also explained why the clan gave more extra rewards to those who were seriously injured than those who died in battle. Even if the host they parasitized was dead, as long as the body was still there, they could parasitize it. Since the artifact was already connected to the teleportation circle in the Sky Demon's base, the cost of the space jump was greatly reduced. Therefore, the Holy Spirit clan's information was very accurate and reliable. They could lay eggs in other living beings and continue to absorb the host's bloodline power, racial talents, and so on. When they finally broke out of the womb, the newly born xenomorph would inherit most of the host's abilities. Lu Wu hadn't decided where to go next. However, the adaptive growth of the Zur clan was different. It could give the Zur clan warriors all the possible abilities. Every parasitism was a transformation of the genes and bloodline. The potential of this race would also be enhanced. Early stage, Emperor Realm. Peak, 4 stages, minimum of 500 Holy Spirit stones. Details can be discussed later. Along the way, Lu Wu was surprised to find that many of the information centers were selling real-time information. Until now, the Zur clan was still the race with the strongest potential according to Lu Wu's knowledge. While reading the information about the xenomorph, Lu Wu couldn't help but feel that this race was indeed terrifying. According to the information, other than the defeat against the Zur clan army led by Blade, this force had almost never suffered a defeat. At most, they only suffered some losses. Up until now, this force had already become one of the super overlord forces of the Outer Realm. It controlled 308 worlds, and its subsidiary forces were spread throughout the starfield they resided in. Even though they couldn't compare to the Holy Spirit tribe, they had already surpassed most of the foreign powers. Just like that, by relying on the continuous reproduction of parasites, the mutants had been suppressed in the beginning. Now, they were able to stand on equal footing with the Iron Blood Alliance. Moreover, according to this development speed, the mutants already had the tendency to dominate the star field. As it turned out, the space zone where the Iron Blood Alliance was located also had extremely terrifying opponents. In the endless wars between the two parties, neither of them was able to defeat the other party. Divine Realm. 10,000 to 30,000 Saint Spirit Stones. Lu Wu could not help but have an idea. If the Predators were natural-born warriors, then the Xenomorphs were natural-born killing machines. Of course, in reality, because Sun Chi's digitized body was locked by the divine artifact, the mutants were naturally unable to plunder his bloodline. The growth of zombies was to continuously devour flesh and blood to provide nutrients for the virus, thus evolving. In the extremely cold environment, they had evolved cold-resistant antibodies. In comparison, the difference between the two was obvious. However, Lu Wu did not step forward to ask. After all, this was their secret. How could he reveal it so easily? As he checked, the domineering growth of the mutants made Lu Wu's scalp tingle. They were simply ruthless. The Ink Galaxy is about to produce a special spiritual material, the Infinite Crystal. The specific coordinates, price. If the amount of resources consumed in a single battle were to be converted into soul coins, it would probably be more than all the soul coins in his inventory. Should I go and sign up? However, Lu Wu was very curious about where the intelligence agency got the information from. Early stage Emperor Realm. Peak Emperor Realm. 4 stages minimum 550 Saint Spirit Stones. Details can be discussed in detail. Because he had purchased relevant information about the Zerg, he knew how terrifying the Zerg adaptive growth was. It was far from what the mutants could compare to. After reading the information, Lu Wu made a decision after some thought. After a short period of silence, the group of players arrived at the extraterrestrial demon's base in the glittering world. Not only in terms of wealth, but also in terms of combat power, this force was even more terrifying. The Zerg did not rely on external forces to evolve. Resources and energy were only consumed by the nest's reproduction and self-evolution. They completely relied on their own adaptability to grow and evolve. Through the many expeditions, more and more foreign forces surrendered to the Predator clan, eventually forming a huge empire called the Iron Blood Alliance. This force was known as the Alien Army. Only by relying on one's own ability to survive the harsh war was where the glory lay. Additional damage reward. Based on the degree of injury, the reward would be, during the growth of the mutants, they could only obtain the abilities of their hosts. They could not create new abilities. Lu Wu could not help but smile at the thought of buying information from the Holy Spirit clan, but his ultimate goal was to overthrow the Holy Spirit clan's rule. Was the Iron Blood Alliance bad at math? Why was the reward for serious injuries more than dying in battle? Lu Wu had seen 3 forces with such rapid development at this stage, and all of them rose so quickly that it was almost like cheating. Along the way, Lu Wu arrived at the eastern region of the intelligence exchange. This could be seen from the fact that the highest leader of the Zerg, Blade, dared to challenge the Holy Spirit clan. They didn't invade other worlds just to plunder. Fighting was their greatest desire. A moment later, Lu Wu walked out of the Holy Spirit clan's intelligence agency with a thick stack of information about the Iron Blood Alliance in his hand. For example, Frowny Face, the super cosmic beast, Destroyer, is about to give birth. You can obtain a baby with the potential to reach the Great Emperor Realm. Exact coordinates. Price. Therefore, between the Iron Blood Alliance and the Alien Army, one side would inevitably be overthrown and become the stepping stone for the other side's rise. After flying for a while, Lu Wu landed in the intelligence exchange area. The newborn mutants would receive part of the White Phantom's bloodline inheritance power, and this ability could be passed on to the next generation. Therefore, Lu Wu was very curious about what kind of information the other clans were selling here. Here, Lu Wu realized that all kinds of information could be sold, including important opportunities. The follow-up description of the information gave Lu Wu an answer. In the beginning, they were suppressed by the Iron Blood Alliance, and many of their people died, so they could only wander in the foreign lands. Now, they had gained the upper hand. The growth potential of the alien army was huge, and their combat power had even surpassed the Iron Blood Alliance. However, unlike the Holy Spirit clan, the other intelligence agencies provided real-time information or lists of important information, and they could choose the information they wanted. The third one was the alien army that he had just learned about. Before leaving the Celestial Ring world, Lu Wu told the Jingqi clan to continue collecting stellar nuclei. At the same time, the auction house was still open to them, but in the future, the auction house must be used in the teleportation circle connected to the artifact. Anyway, the players would not really die, so they could earn soul coins and experience by killing the mutants. Even if they died, they could still get extra rewards from the Iron Blood Alliance. This was definitely a profitable business. For example, the dog was parasitized by the mutants and laid eggs in his body. He planned to buy information about the Iron Blood Alliance to find out why this force was so rich. All the Iron Blood clan members were gifted warriors. From the moment they were born, they lived to fight. They could control cold-killing machines, and they had a strong physique that was not weaker than any cultivation system. Void Mirror, Ancient God Realm, 10 Saint Souls. 1 Saint Soul is equivalent to 100,000 Saint Spirit Stones. This was also the reason why the Insect clan had unlimited possibilities. Death Storm, Black Blood Tide. All the horrifying natural disasters were disasters that many of the extraterrestrial beings avoided, but for the insect clan, it was a new opportunity for evolution. The Black Disaster is about to break out in the Quinn Galaxy. Our intelligence agency provides real-time reports. Exact price. Luwu was stunned when he saw this recruitment message. However, the other extraterrestrial races did not have the abilities of the players. So, if they were parasitized, unless they cut open their stomachs and removed the eggs from their bodies, a new mutant would be born in a short period of time. Luwu had come to the information trading area many times, but he always went straight to the most reliable Holy Spirit clan, so he had not visited this place in detail. After instructing the players to move around freely, Luwu strode toward the information trading center in the glittering world. In the eyes of this fighting race, death in war was not glory, but a shameful performance. They controlled the cutting-edge science and technology of the extraterrestrial world, as well as the best cultivation methods. The only regret was that the current insect clan was in a state of disunity after the death of their supreme leader, Blade. They no longer had the terrifying combat power they once had, and now they were doing things their own way. Even the swarm of insects were killing each other. Since he had decided to go, he had to understand his opponents first. When the Holy Spirit clan sold information, they did not provide any information lists at all. They would give you the answers as long as you had the resources. This time, he did not directly enter the information trading area of the Holy Spirit clan. Instead, he walked toward the other areas of the information trading area. However, Luwu had to admit that the rewards offered for recruitment this time really tempted him. At the same time, the Iron and Blood Alliance would pay extra Holy Spirit stones for all the casualties in the war. This was because the mutants had a very terrifying special talent called parasitic reproduction. With curiosity, Luwu continued to look around. The first one was the Death Legion. In a scorching environment, they had evolved heat-resistant antibodies. After every war, they would calculate their battle achievements and convert them into Holy Spirit stones as rewards. They relied on parasitism to grow, which was the most domineering way of growth that Luwu had ever seen. As he continued to walk and observe, a piece of information hanging on the door of an information agency caught his attention. After having an idea, Luwu bought a detailed report about the Mutant Legion and began to look through it. He decided to bring the players to sign up for this war and work for the Iron and Blood Alliance. Recruitment for the Iron and Blood world. They can evolve into nature-defying abilities that other races dare not imagine. Every evolution is the sublimation of their own life form. Resources and energy are indispensable for the Bug Clan to evolve, and the attribute of growth potential has long been maxed out. However, he planned to return to the glittering world to collect some information and, at the same time, let the players exchange for some needed resources. Recruiting a strong foreign army to join the war in our world at a high price. Rewards will be provided according to the number of people and overall strength. The specific prices are as follows. However, these information agencies were amazing. Even though they did not have that kind of ability, they could still collect important information in a short period of time. This really piqued Luwu's curiosity. The players also flew to the major trading areas, ready to buy resources to increase their strength or the laws of binding. The core members of this organization were known as the Iron and Blood Warriors. The stronger the host was, the greater the growth potential of the newly born aberrations. The scariest thing was that the talent obtained could be passed on to the next generation, and as it continued to accumulate, the potential was truly terrifying. Sure enough, there are all kinds of creatures and races in the foreign world. Luwu could not help but sigh. Thinking of this, Luwu immediately turned around and headed to the Holy Spirit Clan's information agency. After the New Year's Day, Luwu and the players knew that a new war was about to begin. Their highest leader, the Iron and Blood Alliance, had already surpassed the Emperor Realm and reached the Void Realm. They were definitely in an unsalvageable disadvantage. If they did not seek help from the foreign forces, they might be heading towards destruction. The Iron and Blood Alliance. No individual registration is accepted. Only forces with more than 1 million members will sign up to participate in this war. The specific coordinates are as follows. Iron Blood Galaxy, XXX. XXX. XXX Void Mirror. 10 to 15 Holy Souls. The Iron and Blood Alliance was a powerful organization that came from the Iron and Blood world. However, among the three forces, Lu Wu was certain that the Zur clan was the most powerful. Additional rewards for dying in battle. Chapter 788. After making the decision, Lu Wu immediately activated the game notification and summoned all the players who were outside. Without further ado, Lu Wu led the players across the space and headed toward the Predator Star Zone. Due to the long distance, Lu Wu had to make 2 consecutive space jumps to reach the Predator Star Zone. Following the coordinates provided by the intelligence agency, they entered the bustling world, one of the strongholds of the Iron and Blood Alliance that recruited foreign forces. This world would be one of the battlefields between the two forces. The bustling world was not big. It was about half the size of the 3 realms. This time, the Iron and Blood Alliance was on the defensive side, and it was their nemesis, the alien army, that wanted to occupy this world. The war would soon begin with the arrival of the alien army. As soon as Lu Wu and the players landed in this world, they were detected by the Iron and Blood Alliance's stronghold. Starships hovered in the air and quickly surrounded Lu Wu and the players. However, after Lu Wu took out the recruitment order from the intelligence agency, the defense was immediately lifted. He and the players were brought into the Iron City of the Iron and Blood Alliance in this world. Without saying much, the Predator who was in charge of receiving the foreign forces brought them to an empty area and then put runes that looked like barcodes on their arms one by one. In this regard, Lu had also asked them the reason for doing so. The Predator who was in charge of receiving them explained that the bar runes were a kind of technological product. It was used to detect battle achievements. As long as they killed the alien in battle, the barcode would automatically record their battle achievements. In this way, there would be no problem of falsely claiming the battle achievements. This method really amazed Lu Wu and the players, but at the same time, they felt regretful. When they were discussing in the forum before they came, they did have the idea of falsely claiming the battle achievements. After all, it was so chaotic at the beginning of the war. Who knew how many they had killed? Naturally, the more the better. However, they did not expect the Iron and Blood Alliance to be prepared and implant barcodes on their right arms. After that, the person in charge took out a microcomputer and began to check the strength of the players through the barcodes. As this force was about to invade the players' bodies, the artifact immediately blocked it. However, Lu Wu quickly gave it permission. After all, it was just a check, and it was not a big problem. It was just a calculation of their combat strength. Soon, a series of numbers appeared in the person's mind. Number of Divine Realm, XXX number of Void Realm, 0 number of Great Emperors, 1 Peak Great Emperor. Looking at the numbers, the person in charge nodded in satisfaction, but he wasn't surprised. This was because their combat strength was not particularly high. The only thing that satisfied him was Lu Wu's strength at the peak of Great Emperor Realm. At this moment, his attitude toward Lu Wu had changed. The Predators respected the strong. This was a very realistic but also very cruel point. Then, the person in charge brought Lu Wu and the players to a place in the Iron City to settle down. He told them that they could go to the battlefield when the war began. At the same time, the person in charge said that their achievements on the battlefield would be accurately recorded and nothing would be missed. Even if one of the clansmen died, the clansman's battle achievements would not be lost because they had already been grouped into a group. The battle achievements of the dead warriors would be reflected to the leader of the group, Lu Wu. Hearing this, Lu Wu could not help but lament that technology was indeed power. Without the support of technology, the counting of battle merits would be exhausting. Moreover, there would be no way to eliminate the problem of false reports and false claims. In the following month, Lu Wu and the players spent their time waiting. Since there were no entertainment facilities here, they had nothing to do before the war began. Moreover, they might encounter another problem. The Alien Legion would not come. Although there were important resource points that the Alien Legion wanted, the Predator Galaxy was huge. Even if the Alien Legion attacked separately, it was impossible to predict which world they would attack first. Lu Wu, who was extremely bored, began to discuss the war in the forum while waiting with the players. During this period, a player made a suggestion that caught Lu Wu's attention. This was what the player said. Since we can get a pension even if we die or get injured in battle, why don't we start with a pension? We can't earn much by exchanging our military exploits for rewards. So, can't the damned officials let us stay in the outside world for a while without turning into a black fog and return to the space? We can lie in the outside world for a while and scam some money out of it. This suggestion caused a huge reaction among the players. After some consideration, Lu Wu felt that it was feasible. Thus, the plan to cheat the compensation was decided. After waiting for about 40 days, Lu Wu and the players' plan to cheat the compensation gradually came to fruition. It was also at this time that the war alarm sounded in the city. The predator warrior who was in charge of Lu Wu's force arrived immediately. He gave Lu Wu the coordinates and asked them to join the war. As the huge interstellar fleet rose into the air, Lu Wu and the outworld forces who came to work followed suit. At this time, a huge gap appeared in the eastern sky of the Bolang world. Densely packed alien species descended from the sky and descended to the world below. The war in the outworld was direct and cruel. There was no need for words, and it would start at any moment. At this moment, the Predator army took the lead in activating their technological weapons and began a carpet bombing. A large number of alien species were killed in this wave of bombardment. However, this was only the beginning. As more and more xenomorphs entered this world, they cleverly began to disperse instead of gathering together. At this moment, the eastern sky and the ground were filled with alien species. Their body shape was very much like that of a dinosaur. They had 4 legs and a long tail full of sharp barbs. The 2 front legs were very different from the 2 back legs. They could stand upright with their thick hind legs while their front limbs were used for grabbing things. They also had a long and pointed head. Their entire body was grayish-brown, and they moved very quickly. The most powerful weapon of the alien species was their extremely sharp tongue. It could easily pierce through most of the defenses of the Predator Alliance. This was a real killing machine. Every part of its body was a weapon. Even the blood in its body had a strong corrosive ability. If one was splashed by the blood, death would be the only outcome for those without a strong physique. After rounds of bombardment, the alien species had already dispersed. The effect of continued bombardment was no longer obvious. At this moment, the Predator army, who was wearing a special combat armor, was mobilized. They marched in neat steps toward the front line where the alien species were advancing. The war began. Lu Wu led the players to follow behind the Predator army and also approach the front line. In front of the mighty army of xenomorphs, Lu Wu could see that the foreign forces that were recruited around him were very nervous. The only people who could remain calm at this moment were Lu Wu and the players. As the 2 sides approached each other, the Predator army began to charge. They marched forward like a steel torrent with an unstoppable momentum. In the first wave of attack, the Predator army distanced itself from the recruited army and went straight into the area where the alien species were relatively concentrated. However, there were still many alien species that broke through the defense from above and came into contact with Lu Wu and the other recruited forces. The battle that belonged to them had just begun. The players were the first to attack. They fearlessly faced the alien species army. Soon, several nearby forces followed the players and attacked decisively. The moment the battle began, screams could be heard everywhere. There were the screams of the players and the screams of other foreign forces. After killing the alien species, the blood that splattered from their bodies would instantly corrode the armor and flesh. It was truly painful. In response, the players decisively turned off the pain function and entered the battle mode. Killing monsters earned soul coins and experience points. Although the players planned to cheat the compensation money, they would only do it when the war was nearing its end. Now, killing the alien species was their main priority, and they could maximize the benefits as much as possible. Although Lu Wu and the players were not the strongest foreign forces that were recruited this time, the players were not inferior to the alien species in terms of ferocity. The players' battle achievements kept increasing as they killed. At the same time, there were also players who fell in battle. However, this time, Lu Wu did not turn their bodies into black mist and enter the artifact space because he wanted to cheat the compensation money. In the battle, the horrors of the alien species were gradually revealed. The players discovered that, after the death of the warriors of other races, there would be newborn alien species bursting out of their chests from time to time. They did not even notice when the alien species laid eggs on their bodies. Moreover, the newborn alien species grew at an astonishing speed. They constantly devoured flesh and blood on the battlefield and quickly entered adulthood before joining the battle again. Some of the warriors who were still fighting would suddenly have their stomachs inflate as if they were inflated. Then, their chests would burst open and newborn alien species would jump out. The players shuddered at the sight. Fortunately, they were protected by the artifact and would not have their bloodline power sucked away. The war was undoubtedly cruel. Although the Iron Blood army was at the forefront, the battle at the rear also caused the players and the foreign forces to suffer greatly. The battle lasted for 5 days. Finally, the Iron Blood army killed their way to the gap in the sky and repaired it. The battle ended after that. The subsequent task was to clean up the battlefield and kill all the invading alien species. The ruthless Iron Blood warriors would even test their own people. If they found that their people were parasitized, they would cut open their stomachs and take out the alien eggs inside. The foreign forces that came to recruit were no exception. As long as they were detected, they would be forced to cut open their stomachs. As the Iron Blood army cleaned up the battlefield, the number of alien species on the battlefield decreased. At this moment, Lu Wu knew it was time to take action. Pretend to be dead, it's starting. Hearing these words, the remaining 230,000 players bent their legs and laid down on the ground according to the plan. If that was all, it would be impossible to deceive the Iron Blood warriors. Then, Lu Wu put their souls into a semi-dormant state. They were in an extremely weak state. At the same time, scars appeared on the surface of the players' bodies. Together with the scars from the previous battle, they looked really miserable. With the help of the artifact, all the players fell into a pseudo-death state. What was the highest state of deception? It was the truth. It was impossible to die because they would receive less money if they died. They had to be in this half-dead state. The Iron Blood warriors would cover the dead with a piece of white cloth. Although there was no glory in dying, at least they had worked hard. It was more like a ceremony to remember the dead. The war ended. All the wounded were carried into the Iron Fortress. Lu Wu met the person in charge of the Iron Blood army again. He told Lu Wu regretfully that he had checked the condition of the bodies of the soldiers. Although they were still alive, they probably would not wake up for the rest of their lives. At the same time, the person in charge also brought the resources equivalent to the battle achievements and additional compensation to Lu Wu. At this moment, Lu Wu and the players were overjoyed. It did not matter whether they woke up or not. The most important thing was to get the compensation. After getting the resources he wanted, Lu Wu told the person in charge that he wanted to bring back the bodies of all the dead clansmen and bury them in their hometown. He also said that he would bring a new group of clansmen back to rejoin the battle. In response to Lu Wu's idea, the person in charge of the Iron Blood army said solemnly that he would welcome him back at any time. Just like that, the Iron Blood Alliance's bankruptcy was on the right track. No one would have thought that the key to the Iron Blood Alliance's destruction was not the rise of the alien species, but the internal conflict. Chapter 789. During the invasion of the aliens, Lu Wu had earned a total of 20 billion soul coins by relying on the players' battle achievements and the final additional pension. Such a huge income made Lu Wu and the players burst into laughter, and they finally realized the feasibility of this plan. After leaving the Bolang world and distributing the loot, Lu Wu returned with the players who had changed their appearances. After some time, the war between the Iron and Blood Alliance and the alien army spread to the entire Iron and Bloodstar region. Not only did the war break out in the Bolang world where Lu Wu was, but many resource worlds controlled by the Iron and Blood Alliance were also invaded by the alien army during this period. During this time, Lu Wu and the players fought the alien army with all their might, and their outstanding performance caught the attention of the higher-ups of the Iron and Blood Alliance. Although they weren't the strongest among the recruited forces, their fearless performance in every battle won the respect of the Iron and Blood Warriors. Although the other recruited forces would also fight the enemies in the war, they had many concerns. All the warriors who participated in the war valued their lives very much, since they were mainly here for the benefits. As for the pension, none of the recruited warriors wanted it. After all, they wouldn't joke around with their lives. Although the pension was a lot, it was equivalent to nothing if they lost their lives. Even if they could still get some benefits after death, they wouldn't be able to enjoy it. They would only benefit the other forces. However, the players were different. There were benefits in killing monsters, and there were still benefits in death. After their resurrection, they could successfully divide the loot with the stupid officials. Therefore, no matter what they did, they would still benefit from the Iron and Blood Alliance. Therefore, although the players were here to cheat the pension, they performed well in the war because killing monsters was also part of their benefits. Soon, Lu Wu and the players were transferred to another world, the Puxio world, by the higher-ups of the Iron and Blood Alliance because of their outstanding performance in the Bolang world. This was a larger battlefield than the world of Bolang. In this world, the alien army had occupied an area and launched attacks on several cities of the Iron and Blood Alliance from time to time. Although they had many allies, the Iron and Blood Alliance's advantage had turned into a disadvantage under the crazy attack of the aliens. However, this time, the Iron and Blood Alliance didn't choose to retreat. Instead, they tightened their defense because the resources produced in this world were extremely important. More importantly, if they lost this place, it would be obvious that they were going to lose. Tightening their defense would not increase their chances of winning. At this moment, another tragic battle had ended. The Iron Blood Army once again defended the defensive line, but they paid a heavy price. At this moment, looking from the sky above the battlefield, there were corpses of xenomorphs, predators, and the recruited reinforcements everywhere. Accompanied by the beeping sound in the sky, the life detection robots entered the field in a practiced manner and began to check if there was any possibility of saving those soldiers who had fallen to the ground. Pieces of white cloth were covered over the bodies of the soldiers who had already been confirmed dead, and then they would be taken away by the transport robots that arrived later on. They would then be grouped according to the barcode on their right arms and returned to the clan leader. During this period, the players had already entered a state of playing dead. With the help of the artifact's concealment, the players were already very skilled at playing dead. The specific procedure was not complicated. All he had to do was lie down and not move. If he did not die, he could try to weakly cry out in pain. However, accidents could also occur during this period. Some players were already heavily wounded and on the brink of death in battle, and with the concealment of the artifact, their life feedback was very weak. They would also be mistakenly determined to be dead by the life detection robots, and then they would be covered with a white cloth to confirm their death. Under such circumstances, the players who were covered with the white cloth could only open their eyes helplessly and speak weakly. "Hey, robot brother, please come over and lift the white cloth. I'm not completely dead yet." There was a huge gap between death compensation and serious injury compensation. Under such circumstances, the players still wanted to be rescued and reap more benefits. After the war ended, the higher-ups of the Iron Blood Alliance held an emergency meeting. Since Lu Wu and the other foreign forces who were recruited were not members of the Iron Blood Alliance, they did not participate in the meeting. However, after the meeting, the atmosphere of the entire Iron Blood Alliance was different. In the next few days, a large number of foreign spaceships and recruited forces rushed to this world. The scattered forces of the Iron Blood Alliance seemed to have started to gather in this world. Judging from this situation, Lu Wu had some speculations in his mind. He knew that the war seemed to have escalated to another level, and the upcoming war would probably be even more tragic. Lu Wu was not worried about this at all. After receiving the compensation, he took the players' corpses and bid farewell to the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance, ready to return to his so-called hometown. In fact, he only hid in the foreign world for a while before returning to this world. To avoid unnecessary trouble, Lu Wu would use the artifact to change the appearance of all the players every time. When Lu Wu returned, the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance looked for him immediately. While Lu Wu was surprised, the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance raised a question and a request to Lu Wu. Why did he only bring one? 2 million people to the war every time? Could he bring all the people from his hometown who wanted to join the war at once? Lu Wu was prepared for these two questions. His excuse was that his hometown only allowed 2 million people to go to the foreign world and not allow a large number of people to go out. Although this excuse seemed unreliable, the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance believed it. After all, there were all kinds of strange things in the foreign world. Things that seemed incomprehensible to others did not exist. Therefore, the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance had to give up on this idea. However, the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance had changed from being indifferent to paying attention to Lu Wu and the players. In their eyes, the players led by Lu Wu were the real warriors. They were absolutely obedient on the battlefield, and they would never take a step back if they said they would not retreat. The incident that moved the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance the most was when Lu Wu and the players defended a steel fortress. All the major recruitment forces retreated out of fear. Only Lu Wu and the players defended the fortress to the end, carrying out the orders of the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance. In the end, except for Lu Wu, who escaped, everyone in the clan died in the battle. The scene was seen by the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance through the satellite. The person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance admired such a force from the bottom of their heart. This was because the Iron Blood clan respected warriors, especially those who were not afraid of death in battle. The person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance even sent an invitation to Lu Wu to join the Iron Blood Alliance. Lu Wu pretended to hesitate for a while and finally chose to reject the invitation. This undoubtedly made the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance and the person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance feel very regretful. But their attitude towards Lu Wu and the players did not change. As the war became more and more intense, the number of recruited forces from the foreign world kept increasing. Even the wealthy Iron Blood Alliance was facing the problem of insufficient resources. Although they could still afford to pay for the recruitment and still had a large amount of resources in the inventory, the war was a long process. They had to consider the future direction of the war and the subsequent consumption of resources. Therefore, under such circumstances, the Iron Blood Alliance came up with a few new rules. These rules were aimed at all the recruited forces from the foreign world. Those who disobeyed orders during the war would have a certain amount of resources deducted. Those who were timid during the war and did not dare to give their all would have a certain amount of resources deducted. Those who did not meet the requirements of the war would have a certain amount of resources deducted. With the implementation of several new policies, the recruited forces could no longer get any rewards. The Iron Blood Alliance even temporarily detained the rewards for those forces who were just messing around during the war. However, these new policies did not affect Lu Wu and the players. Every time the war ended, Lu Wu and the players would be the first to receive the resources. The Iron Blood Alliance even added some resources to the existing resources as compensation. The person in charge of the Iron Blood Alliance was aware of the sacrifices made by Lu Wu and the players. Not to mention the achievements made by Lu Wu and the players in every war. They were moved by the fact that a large number of their clansmen died after each war, and the survivors were almost all severely injured. Therefore, in the eyes of the higher-ups of the Iron Blood Alliance, these rewards were what Lu Wu and the players deserved. Even though Lu Wu had already given them a huge amount of resources as compensation, the higher-ups of the Iron Blood Alliance also saw the heavy casualties and sacrifices made by the foreign forces. Everything was equal. As for their suspicions, the truth was right in front of their eyes after the life detection machine and the personal examination of their clansmen. Therefore, they never doubted anything. With the help of the artifact, Lu Wu began to fleece the Iron Blood Alliance. Although it was fleecing them, the players' performance in the war was indeed worthy of it. After all, they could earn soul coins by killing monsters. In every war, the players sacrificed their lives to create an advantage for the Iron Blood Alliance. Although the effect was minimal, at least they did it. Therefore, Lu Wu and the players' treatment in the Iron Blood Alliance continued to rise. However, As the war became more intense and the disadvantages became clearer, some of the foreign forces began to choose to leave. Because as far as the Xeno-race powers were concerned, they were here to earn benefits and not to throw away their lives. Under the circumstances of the war, they could indeed sacrifice in exchange for rewards. However, in the face of an increasingly disadvantageous situation, these foreign forces also felt the threat of death and finally chose to leave. With their departure, the disadvantages became even more obvious. The Iron Blood Alliance could only choose to give up a few stations in other worlds and then mobilize their troops to replenish this world. During this period, Lu Wu still did not leave. It was impossible to leave. There were soul coins, resources, and experience points to be earned. Only a fool would leave. He would just keep fleecing them. This kind of war lasted for 8 years. The attacks of the mutants became fiercer, and the casualties of the Iron Blood Alliance increased. In the beginning, they came and went, but now the Iron Blood Alliance could only defend. They could no longer choose to take the initiative to attack. At this moment, apart from Lu Wu and the players, no other foreign forces chose to stay. All of them chose to leave, because if they continued to stay, they would be fighting alongside the Iron Blood Alliance with their lives. The higher-ups of the Iron Blood Alliance loved and hated Lu Wu and the players who chose to stay, because the resources in their inventory were almost depleted by Lu Wu. In this regard, the higher-ups of the Iron Blood Alliance also made a suggestion. They hoped that Lu Wu would bring them to their hometown to lobby and recruit more soldiers. Then, they would give a one-time high reward to try to end this war quickly. However, Lu Wu politely refused and chose to continue fleecing them. The higher-ups of the Iron Blood Alliance were helpless, but they respected Lu Wu's decision. After all, it was already a great help to them to stay. It was unrealistic to ask all the combat forces in the other world to help them fight against the mutant army. Therefore, they could only choose to continue being fleeced. Although in the eyes of the higher-ups of the Iron Blood Alliance, this was not considered fleecing them. This was because they had calculated the casualties of the Heavenly Devil Army over the past 8 years. Up until now, almost 300 million of their people had died. Chapter 790. The war between the Predator Alliance and the Xenomorphs had lasted for 18 years. In fact, the outcome of the war had already been decided. However, the Predator Alliance still did not choose to retreat. Instead, all the high-level warriors joined the war. During this period, they tried to persuade Lu Wu to leave with his people. They planned to give Lu Wu the last resources of the Predator clan, as well as their technological information, before he left. This was something that Lu Wu and the players did not expect. How could the Predator clan have such an idea in such a cruel environment in the Outland? As the saying goes, those who are not of the same clan must have different intentions. Moreover, there were conflicts of interest between the same clan, not to mention with the Outland forces. The cooperation between the two clans could only be related to interests. They would not give anything unilaterally. Even though Lu Wu had made great contributions to the Predator Alliance, the Predator Alliance had also contributed resources. All contributions and returns were equal. However, the final decision of the Predator clan surprised him. It was more like a dying request. They would give all the important things or inheritance to Lu Wu and then choose to die in battle. Lu Wu had already understood the characteristics of this clan during their contact. Just as the information that the Holy Spirit race had purchased had described, this was a true fighting race. The entire Predator Alliance had collapsed. Apart from the Predator clan, the other forces had fled the Predator galaxy. The Predator clan had also gathered all their combat power in the common cultivation world. According to them, dying in battle was not an honor, but the Predator clan would never retreat or run away. This was their choice. Over the years, Lu Wu and the players had gained their respect. Therefore, they wanted to give all the Predator clan's technology and cultivation secrets as a farewell gift. As for what would happen next, they decided to carry out their beliefs and fight the Xenomorphs to the end. Lu Wu had mixed feelings about this. Although he had led the players through many battles, he was only there to fleece them. He had never given them any feelings. However, the Predator clan obviously treated him as a true ally. They were very sincere and were even willing to give him the most precious inheritance of their clan. Although the sheep had been fleeced, Lu Wu could indeed lead the players to leave without any benefits. However, this time, Lu Wu chose to stay after some consideration. The battles in the Outland over the years had sent away many Outland forces and witnessed their destruction. It was the same this time. Lu Wu and the players decided to accompany the predators to the end of their journey. Although the ending could not be changed, and they did not have the ability to change it at this stage, at least they had walked through it together, and it could be considered a precious experience in their memories. Even if no one would remember the predators in the future, the players would. Hearing that Lu Wu had chosen to stay, the leader of the predator clan, Ironblood, personally found Lu Wu and presented him with a scepter in his hand. If Lu Wu's decision to stay was for benefits, then it was not as simple as that. This scepter that represented the supreme power of the Predator Blood Clan was his gratitude to Lu Wu. Although this scepter would no longer be of use in the future, he firmly believed that Lu Wu would forever be the ally of the Predator Clan. In the end, the Predators stopped trying to persuade Lu Wu to leave. Instead, they started preparing for war. The majestic Iron Blood army finally walked out of the various cities and headed towards the direction where the Aberration army was coming from. In this battle, they took the initiative to attack. Even without the alliance, they did not retreat or fear. As they advanced, a few iron-blooded armies gathered and marched forward in unison. Lu Wu and the players followed behind the army and advanced. The outcome of this battle was already clear. Now, Lu Wu and the players only wanted to accompany the Predator Blood Clan on their last journey, and it had nothing to do with benefits. As they advanced, the ground shook violently, and the silhouettes of aberrations gradually appeared in the sky and on the ground, gradually filling their field of vision. The war horn of the Predator Blood Clan rang through the sky and earth at this moment. Their armor, which was full of claw marks, shone brightly under the sun, and their unyielding will infected the players through the cold armor. At this moment, the players gripped the weapons in their hands tightly, ready to fight the enemy with their allies. Although we will lose, we will remember this experience as the enormous body of the Aberration Queen appeared. A sharp, ear-piercing cry rang through the sky and earth. The Aberration army also launched an attack at this moment, attacking with great vigor. The leader, Ironblood, floated in the air at this moment, staring coldly at the Aberration Queen through the armor. He then raised the spear in his hand and was ready to give the order to attack. However, at this moment, a huge gap suddenly appeared in the sky, and the densely packed void insect warriors fell down like dumplings in a pot. These void insect warriors headed straight for the aberrations, falling into the battlefield like a tidal wave, dismembering and eating the aberrations. Seeing this scene, Lu Wu could not help but be stunned. Void Insect Tribe? Why did they appear here? The appearance of the Void Insect Tribe not only surprised Lu Wu, but even the Predator Blood Clan was very puzzled. This Void Insect Tribe was far stronger than the one Lu Wu had seen before. Their purple outer shell was very hard, and no matter how hard the aberrations bit, they could not break the defense. At this moment, the Aberration Queen let out an ear-piercing cry, and then the Aberration army targeted the Void Insect Tribe. They attacked the sky, trying to force them to retreat. However, in terms of combat power, the Void Insect Tribe was obviously superior to the Aberrations. If the Aberrations were natural killing machines, then the Insect Tribe was a natural disaster from the extraterrestrial realm. Apart from those natural disasters from the extraterrestrial realm, the Void Insect Tribe was the only race that was called a natural disaster by the major extraterrestrial forces. Seeing this, Tai Shui put away his spear and descended to the ground. He had no intention of helping the Insect Tribe fight against the Aberrations. Instead, he watched coldly from the sidelines, and the doubts he had in the past were gradually answered at this moment. At this moment, Lu Wu truly witnessed the terror of the Void Insect Tribe. Because in the battle, the Insect Tribe was actually evolving. Back then, the Jingxi clan had not fought with the Insect Tribe, and the only battle was a crushing battle when they entered the Abyss world, so his understanding of the void insect tribe was not perfect. But at this moment, he saw it. Relying on the data support provided by the artifact, he found that the eggs planted in the bodies of the insect tribe warriors, from the beginning to absorbing the nutrients of the insect tribe's bodies, were eventually absorbed in reverse, and eventually became nutrients for the insect tribe's bodies. These void insect tribe warriors evolved the ability to deal with the parasitism of the aberrations in a short period of time. What was even more terrifying was that when the insect tribe warriors evolved the ability to resist parasitism, they would absorb the eggs into nutrients in the blink of an eye when they were parasitized again. The initial adaptation process would no longer occur, and they were completely immune to the parasitism of the aberrations. In this regard, the talent of the void insect tribe had crushed the aberrations. However, this was only the beginning of the evolution. One of the great killing weapons of the aberrations, the blood corrosion ability, caused a lot of casualties to the void insect tribe in the early stages of the confrontation. However, gradually, the insect tribe warriors adapted to the blood corrosion ability and were no longer afraid of the damage caused by the corrosive blood. This speed of evolution made Lu Wu and the players' jaws drop. Dog officials, I report the void insect tribe for cheating. Give them an authority ban. This is too much, too much. This speed of evolution is too fast. There's no doubt that they are cheating. It's already a solid piece of evidence, and with the video as evidence, the dog officials can ban their accounts. The players were discussing in the live chat channel, completely shocked by the performance of the void insect tribe. Lu Wu was the same. The information he bought about the Holy Spirit clan at that time did explain that the adaptive evolution ability of the insect tribe was extremely terrifying, and it belonged to the top talent ability of the extraterrestrial world. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, Lu Wu was completely convinced. Lu Wu had a deep understanding of how terrifying the aberrations were. With their parasitic ability, this race became stronger the more they fought, constantly absorbing the bloodline power of powerful beings to perfect themselves. Coupled with their rapid reproduction ability, it was simply a race with cheating. However, it was obvious that at this moment, they had encountered another race with a higher level of cheating. The void insect tribe could complete their evolution in battle, and they did not need external help at all. At this time, the aberrations were like pigs raised by the insect tribe, constantly being killed and turned into their nutrients. During the battle, the insect cerebrum, which was hiding in the dark, had even figured out a set of tactics to deal with the aberrations, and the efficiency of killing the aberrations had significantly increased. When the insect tribe mother nest descended, the advantage of the void insect tribe was expanded like never before. 8 insect tribe guardians surrounded the wriggling beehive-like creatures and descended into this world. Then a steady stream of new insect tribe warriors were born and threw themselves into the battle. The blood-colored moss of the insect tribe's parasites also spread at this moment, absorbing the power of the Earth's core to provide the insect tribe mother nest with the energy it needed to reproduce. It was a very organized hunt, and this arrival was obviously premeditated. Under the suppression of the void insect tribe, the aberration queen kept roaring, but it had no effect at all. The death rate of the aberrations under her was still increasing. However, what made Lu Wu curious was why the insect tribe did not attack the predator tribe, but instead attacked the aberration army to death. If they wanted to invade this world, shouldn't they treat everyone equally? Just when Lu Wu was puzzled, the Iron Blood leader came to Lu Wu's side. I think my guess is correct. I know the origin of the aberrations. What do you mean? Lu Wu looked confused. The appearance of the aberrations is very strange. Logically speaking, with the aberrations' growth talent, they should have risen a long time ago. Why did they only appear in this star zone after I established the Iron Blood Alliance? I was puzzled at that time. I have investigated their origin and finally came to a conclusion. The aberrations are not a native race of the Predator Star Zone, but were reared in this star zone by other forces of the Outer Star Zone. Hearing this, Lu Wu's pupils shrank. You mean it was the Void Insect tribe that reared the aberrations? The Iron Blood leader nodded. I couldn't be sure before, but now I can confirm my guess. These words made Lu Wu and the players dumbfounded, rearing leeks and waiting for them to grow up before harvesting them. Why does this seem so familiar? At this moment, Lu Wu and the players had a new understanding of the horror of the void insect tribe. They had planted such a terrible disaster in this star zone just to reap the harvest today. What a ruthless race, worthy of being the true calamity force of the outer star zone. Turning his head to look at the void insect tribe and the aberrations, Lu Wu and the players no longer felt that this was an invasion war. This is King harvesting leeks. They must be very happy. Thinking of this, Lu Wu and the players' faces showed expressions of envy. Chapter 791. After listening to the leader's iron-blooded explanation, Lu Wu finally understood. It turned out that powerful creatures like the xenomorphs were merely food raised in captivity by the void bugs. The behavior of the void bugs made Lu Wu suddenly think of the Holy Spirit clan. Although the scale couldn't be compared to the Holy Spirit clan's myriad worlds raising of vermin, the essence was the same. Moreover, the scale wasn't small. They used a star zone as a training ground and cultivated such terrifying xenomorphs just for the final harvest. Thinking of this, Lu Wu and the players suddenly missed the sea leeks. Look at the leeks they raised. They were almost dominating a star zone. Look at the sea leeks. The players' expressions changed from envy to disappointment. They felt that everyone was raising leeks. Why did the leeks of the void bugs grow so fast? More importantly, the leeks of the void bugs were purely free range. There was no need to care about them at all. They could just harvest them when they matured. However, the sea leeks were different. They faced the crisis of dying several times during their growth, and they still had to save them. Comparing leeks to leeks was really infuriating. The harvest of the void bugs was still ongoing. This was a battle of unequal strength. The military system of the void bugs was far more complicated than that of the xenomorphs. They could combine a lot of coordinated attacks. More importantly, the adaptive evolution ability of the void bugs rendered the racial talents of the xenomorphs useless. Even the bug warriors had gradually adapted to the attacking methods of the xenomorphs. They were smart enough to learn how to attack their weaknesses and how to efficiently tear apart the xenomorphs in front of them. This was a gluttonous feast for the void bugs. In the battle, the advantage of the void bugs became more and more obvious. The xenomorphs were completely in a passive position. The terrified xenomorph queen began to reproduce at this moment, trying to create a steady stream of energy for the xenomorph army. However, in terms of reproduction ability, the void bugs were still superior to the xenomorph queen. The 5 mother nests relied on the energy provided by the bug parasites to produce tens of thousands of bug warriors every second. They were not on the same level at all. Realizing that they would definitely die if this continued, the xenomorph queen finally gave up on the idea of continuing the battle. She immediately gathered her personal guards and tried to abandon her subordinates and break out of the encirclement. However, just as their bodies rose into the air, they crashed into an invisible space barrier and fell from the sky. The infuriated aberration queen rose into the air once again, attempting to tear apart this invisible spatial barrier. Just then, a massive figure darted out from the gap in the sky, bringing along a majestic pressure as it pressed down toward the aberration queen. The Leviathan, the heroic unit of the Zerg, had appeared. This creature resembled a whale, but its body was covered in sharp edges. It was over 10,000 meters long, and it floated in the air, blocking out all light. The aberration queen, who was doing her best to tear apart the spatial barrier, came face to face with the Leviathan. At the instant of the collision, densely packed cracks appeared on the surface of the aberration queen's body, and they extended out toward her entire body. As the aberration queen cried out agonizingly, it was once again forced back to the ground. Obviously, all of this was within the insect cerebrum's expectations, and it had set up a backup plan. Although the insect race was a natural disaster from the outer realm and was crazy, they were not stupid at all. The intelligence of the insect cerebrum was far above that of most of the creatures in the outer realm, and every action it took was planned and planned. Whatever the aberration queen could think of, the insectoid cerebrum could also think of, and it had long since made preparations to cut off its path of retreat. As the spatial barrier was repaired, the aberration queen lay weakly on the ground, panting heavily. She seemed to be in a very sorry state. As for the Leviathan, it floated in the air, seemingly having no intention of continuing its attack. However, the void insect race's massacre of the aberrations was still ongoing. It was a one-sided massacre, and a large number of aberrations were cruelly dismembered and eaten. The valiance of the void insect race was fully displayed at this moment, and the resistance of the aberrations gradually weakened. This was also the first time Lu Wu and the players had seen such a terrifying force with racial talents. Fortunately, the void insect race did not seem to have any interest in them, and they did not launch any attacks toward them. Iron Blood leader, why don't we retreat? At this moment, Lu Wu looked at Iron Blood and said. When Iron Blood heard this, he shook his head. It's best if we don't act rashly. The void insect race is a lawless life form, and I can't guess what they are thinking. If we act rashly, we might be attacked by them. Then are we just going to watch? Let's watch. If the insect race chooses to attack us in the end, then we'll fight. Iron Blood said coldly. Can we beat them? We can't. Lu Wu was speechless. Lu Wu suddenly admired the courage of the Iron Blood clan, a race with a one-track mind. They were simply like Brother Flattop. Regardless of whether they could beat them or not, if they dared to bully them, they would fight them to the death. The one-sided massacre progressed very quickly. Be it in terms of numbers or strength, the aberrations could not compete with the void insect race. More importantly, the nearby space had been sealed, and the aberration army had no way to retreat even if they wanted to. Under normal circumstances, the war between the two sides would last for at least decades, or even centuries. Under abnormal circumstances, it could even last for tens of thousands of years. However, the void insect race pursued efficiency. This time, the aberration army had gathered in this world, and after they sealed this space, they could completely wipe them out in one go. Therefore, this war only lasted for 8 days, and the aberrations were all slaughtered. In the end, the aberration queen was not killed. Instead, she was imprisoned by the insect race warriors. As for why the void insect race did not kill the aberration queen, Lu Wu and the players had already guessed the reason. After all, things like leeks could grow again. As long as the source was unbroken, there would be an endless supply. Therefore, they definitely could not be killed. They had to choose to cultivate again and then wait for the next time to mature. Thinking of this, Lu Wu and the players were so envious that they were about to lose their minds. 2F** King Professional. With the top of the food chain in the extraterrestrial realm, all so good at playing? As the war ended, the void insect race army still ignored the Iron Blood clan. Instead, they entered the gap in the sky and left this world. Seeing this, Lu Wu and the players breathed a sigh of relief. It was not that they were afraid of the void insect race, but they were worried that Brother Flattop's forces would be destroyed. After pulling wool from them for so long, they had even developed feelings for them. It was good that they could live now. However, at this moment, a distorted black hole suddenly appeared in front of the Iron Blood army, and a bug race guardian emerged from it. Seeing this, the Predator warriors immediately clenched the weapons in their hands. At this moment, the bug race guardian suddenly spoke. The bug race guardian spoke in the common language of the extraterrestrial realm. After the words were translated by the artifact, Lu Wu and the players understood. What surprised Lu Wu was that this bug race guardian was staring at him. Me? Lu Wu pointed at himself in shock. Are you afraid? The bug race guardian continued to speak. I'm just wondering why you want to talk to me. Is it your insect brain that wants to see me? Lu Wu said indifferently. He was not afraid at all. The bug race guardian nodded. The master wants to see you. Then let's go. I also want to see what your master of the bug race looks like. Lu Wu's figure floated into the air. Seeing this scene, the Iron Blood leader took a step forward with a vigilant look, as if he wanted to stop Lu Wu from leaving. In the eyes of the Iron Blood leader, the cruel void insect race was by no means a kind force. Every action must be planned. Lu Wu was already his recognized ally, so he should protect him. At this moment, Lu Chai and the others stopped the Iron Blood leader and said, "Brother Flattop, don't worry. It'll be fine." Brother Flattop? The Iron Blood leader looked confused. They accidentally said the nickname they had for the Iron Blood leader in their hearts. Lu Chai and the others smiled awkwardly and then changed the topic. "Don't worry about him. If the void insect race wants to destroy us, we can't resist." When the Iron Blood leader heard this, he sighed and said no more. At this time, Lu Wu had already reached the side of the rotating black hole and followed the bug race guardian into it. After a short period of weightlessness, a pure black world appeared in front of Lu Wu's eyes. In this black world, a pair of green eyes were staring at him. "Bug Cerebrum?" Lu Wu asked curiously. "You can call me the Bug Race Master." A childish voice came from the front. "It's more or less the same. Why are you looking for me?" Lu Wu asked curiously. "Aren't you afraid of me?" The Bug Cerebrum asked in surprise. All right. If you have something to say, just say it. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you." Lu Wu waved his hand impatiently and said, although the strength of this void insect race was very strong, it was not a big deal for Lu Wu. After all, his final goal was the Holy Spirit clan. It was a force more terrifying than the bug race and was at the top of the pyramid in the extraterrestrial world. Lu Wu's attitude was obviously beyond the bug Cerebrum's expectations. After a long silence, the childish voice came again. "Do you know? I've been watching you for a long time, and I've discovered your secret. I've been paying attention to the growth of the xenomorphs, so I've secretly observed every time you went to the extraterrestrial world to resurrect your clansmen and then returned. Therefore, I guess that you must have mastered the power of an extreme law." Hearing this, Lu Wu was shocked. He did not expect his every move to be completely observed by the bug Cerebrum in the dark. It seemed like his secret had been exposed. "Originally, I planned to wait for the xenomorphs to completely occupy this star region and then appear after a period of development. The destruction of the Predator clan was originally in my plan. They were supposed to be the xenomorphs' food for their growth, but because of you, I changed my mind." The childish voice continued to come from the darkness, and the green eyes blinked at this moment. "So, what are you trying to say? You want to deprive me of the extreme law in my body?" Although Lu Wu was shocked, he was not afraid. He had completely mastered the power of unification, so he did not believe that the bug Cerebrum could do anything to him. There's no need for that. The bug race has also mastered an extreme law, and it's one of the strongest laws, evolution. Why would we covet the law in your body? The bug Cerebrum's words completely shocked Lu Wu. He did not expect the void bug race to have mastered the power of an extreme law that was on the same level as the unification law. At this moment, Lu Wu finally understood why the void bug race's adaptive evolution ability was so terrifying. "So, tell me what your purpose is." "Cooperation. To fight against the Holy Spirit race together." The bug Cerebrum immediately replied, "You seem to be mistaken. I have no enmity with the Holy Spirit race, and going against the Holy Spirit race will only lead to death. How can I agree to such a request?" Lu Wu was vigilant. "Let me tell you a piece of news. The entire Holy Spirit race has been searching recently because a creature has snatched one of the Holy Spirit King's ultimate laws. If I'm not wrong, that ultimate law should be the strongest of the ultimate laws, unification, and it should be with you now. You need evidence to speak. I'll sue you for slander." Lu Wu refused to admit it. "Believe me, the void bug race hates the Holy Spirit race the most. I will provide you with help so that you can grow quickly." The young voice sounded rather helpless. Lu Wu did not reply. Instead, he asked curiously, "I understand the history of the void bug race. I'm very curious about why the Holy Spirit King only mastered an ordinary extreme law, while you void bugs have mastered an ultimate law. Logically speaking, you should have a greater chance of winning, but why did you lose to the Holy Spirit King?" The bug Cerebrum fell silent when it heard Lu Wu's question. After a while, it said, "The Holy Spirit King's Holy Spirit law is an exception. Although it's not as powerful as the ultimate laws, it's the most practical. If it's used properly, it's even more terrifying than the ultimate laws. Can you explain it in detail? Let's put it this way. The outer world we live in is also known as the firmament world. All the information within will be recorded in the firmament database as soon as it's produced. The Holy Spirit King's ability is to read all the information in the firmament database at any time, so he's always one step ahead. He can sense whether it's fortuitous encounters or disasters ahead of time. This ability is used to the limit in his hands. Back then, our void bug race was at a disadvantage because of this, and we were defeated in the end regrettably. Luwu suddenly felt lucky when he heard that. Fortunately, he was an unregistered person from another space-time and was not registered in the firmament database. Otherwise, the Holy Spirit King would have found him long ago. Aren't you afraid of the Holy Spirit King, sensing you talking to me like this? Luwu suddenly asked out of curiosity. Don't be afraid. This space is a parallel space that I created. It's not in the firmament world, so he can't sense my existence. Moreover, he's not really omniscient and omnipotent. There are some things he can't sense, such as the extreme laws that are at the same level as the Holy Spirit laws, or the more powerful extreme laws. These information are equivalent to the restricted areas in the firmament database. If he could sense them, then he would have gathered all the extreme laws a long time ago and become existence that no one can shake. Luwu nodded in realization. He suddenly understood why the Holy Spirit King, who is omniscient and omnipotent, did not gather all the power of the extreme laws. It turned out that he had his shortcomings. So, are you willing to cooperate with me? The childish voice sounded again. Why did you choose to cooperate with me instead of trying to steal the unification laws in my body? Luwu asked curiously. Since the ultimate laws have fused with you, how can they be taken away so easily? Otherwise, the Holy Spirit King would have taken away the evolution laws in our void bug race. That's why I chose to cooperate with you and fight against the Holy Spirit King. He will definitely be your enemy, because you took away his most important thing. This time, Luwu could see that the Cerebrate was indeed looking for him to cooperate. In fact, after understanding the history of the void bugs, he also believed what the Cerebrate said. They hated the Holy Spirit clan. Moreover, one more ally meant one more chance of winning. So he could indeed choose to cooperate. Thinking of this, Luwu said, "We can cooperate, but you have to let me see your real body and reveal some information about you. I can't not even know who my ally is." Okay. At this moment, the darkness slowly faded, revealing the Cerebrate's real body. It was a half-meter-long silkworm baby. Its half-curl body looked really cute. Let me introduce myself. I'm the direct descendant of the bug race's supreme ruler, Dowlang. What? Dowlang? Luwu was dumbfounded. The players who were watching the live broadcast were already rolling on the floor with laughter. This silkworm baby's name was really domineering. Chapter 792. Luwu was speechless at the name of the Cerebrate. Everyone's surname is Dao. Why is there such a big difference between you and your father Daofoam? It's not serious at all. However, the Cerebrate did not know what Luwu was thinking. It looked at the bug tribe guardian that looked like a bee beside Luwu and continued its introduction. It's my personal guard and my most trusted subordinate, Net Peak. At this moment, Luwu could no longer hold it in and laughed. Although he knew it was a coincidence, it was too much of a coincidence. The players in the live streaming channel were rolling on the floor with laughter. Stupid official, now I want to choose the first snow of 2002 as a gift for you to earn soul coins. Laughing emoji. Then I will choose life in full bloom. Stupid official, hurry up, I can't wait. This bug tribe is quite ambitious. I'm afraid they're going to form a band. Laughing emoji. I can't take it anymore, let me laugh for a while. The river flows east, the stars in the sky join the Big Dipper. I'm sorry, I played the wrong song, but I suspect that there's someone called Lu Huan, laughing emoji, among the higher-ups of the bug tribe. Luwu could not stop laughing when he saw the bullet screen in the live streaming channel. However, the Cerebrate and the Guardian were confused. They did not know what Luwu was laughing about, but they could feel that he was very happy. After laughing for a while, Luwu finally calmed down and ignored the players who were asking for songs on the bullet screen. If he really asked for songs, the alliance that he was about to establish would be broken on the spot. He would probably be beaten up. Their fates would definitely be miserable. Ahem, now let's talk business. It's not a problem to be an ally, but I don't think I can be of much help at this stage. Luwu calmed himself down and said, I really want to know what you're laughing about. The cerebrate tilted its head and asked, looking very confused. Nothing, don't worry about it. Let's talk business. Luwu said with a serious face, trying to change the topic. All right, since we are allies, then, just as I said, I can help you grow quickly. How? If I said I can give you another supreme law, would you believe me? The cerebrate's expression became serious. Seriously? Luwu was confused. Very seriously. Why don't you use it yourself? Why give it to me? The evolution laws of nature have already been completely integrated into our bloodlines. Apart from this ultimate law, we are unable to master any other extreme laws of nature, including the great path laws of nature. Our bodies will reject them. However, the path integration law that you've mastered is different. It's not the power of the bloodline laws of nature. That's not right. Then why is the God of creation able to master all the extreme laws, including all the strongest extreme laws? Luwu asked curiously. Because he's the God of creation. A hint of helplessness appeared on the insectoid cerebrum's face. Luwu was speechless. He felt that the insect cerebrum's explanation made sense. After all, it was the God of creation, the biggest seller of cheats and monopolist. It could be said that whether it was Luwu's cheats or the cheats of the Holy Spirit King and the other powerhouses from the outer region, they all came from the God of creation. Thinking of the old man who couldn't die even if he wanted to, Luwu was impressed. You trust me that much? You're willing to give me the strongest extreme laws? Luwu continued to ask. This was also the biggest doubt in his heart at the moment. I don't believe you. So you can use the path integration law that you've mastered to swear to the God of creation of the firmament world that you're willing to advance and retreat together with the Bug Clan. If you violate the oath, the path integration law will return to the extreme mountain. The insect cerebrum's chubby face was solemn. Is this oath valid? Luwu asked weakly. Although the God of creation wants to die, he's not completely dead yet. At least before he's completely dead, this is valid. The insect cerebrum nodded. Yes, Luwu was not interested in this, but he was getting more and more excited. This was because he had no enmity toward the Bug Clan. If he could obtain an ultimate extreme law and form an alliance with Dowling, who had a vendetta against the Holy Spirit Clan, it would be a win-win deal. After agreeing to the insect cerebrum's request, Luwu followed the method provided by the insect cerebrum and swore with the path integration law in his body, guaranteeing that he would advance and retreat together with the Voidbug Clan. After Luwu had done all this, a silly smile appeared on the insect cerebrum's face. It seemed very satisfied. In fact, it had never cared about Luwu's current strength. It had always valued Luwu's potential. The fact that Luwu could obtain the path integration law from the Holy Spirit King was enough to impress it. It believed that Luwu would definitely be a huge threat to the Holy Spirit Clan when he grew up, and he would also be a great help to it. His goal of avenging his father was one step closer. While Luwu was curious, a black crystal ball appeared on the insect cerebrum's forehead and slowly floated in front of Luwu. This is the ultimate law that I'm going to give you. It's the ultimate law that was mastered by the Devil Clan, the strongest calamity force in the early days of the firmament world, the Dark Loss. As the insect cerebrum's voice fell, the crystal ball floated to Luwu's forehead and slowly merged into it. At this moment, a lot of information appeared in Luwu's mind. This was an extremely ancient race force, the Devil Clan. It was also the overlord of the extraterrestrial territories before the Holy Spirit King reached the top of the extraterrestrial food chain. However, this force was eventually wiped out during the Holy Spirit King's growth and became history. The Dark Loss was the ultimate law that the Devil Clan had mastered back then. This was a kind of soul-stripping technique. It used the method of equivalent exchange to strip the origin soul of all living things and turn it into an extreme special soul power to strengthen the power of the law owner. This was the first time Lu Wu had seen a soul manipulation technique other than the artifact. If the path integration law was to extract the soul power for one's own use, then the dark loss was a technique to compress the soul power and forge the quality of the soul power into an extremely special power that could be used directly against the enemy. Lu Wu did not have to think to know the effect of the soul power. If it was used to cast spells, the effect would be countless times better than using spiritual energy. However, what surprised Lu Wu was that this soul power compression could only be obtained through equivalent exchange. He really did not understand what it meant. Just as Lu Wu was about to continue looking at the internal information, the insect cerebrum spoke again. The Devil Clan was the calamity force from the extraterrestrial territories before the Void Insect Clan. They relied on this ability to rise. Try to use the equivalent exchange method recorded inside to obtain the special soul power and forge this ultimate law. This way, you will have the ability to control the soul. Hearing this, Lu Wu looked helpless. I still have to collect the resources to forge this law. How much time will that take? Isn't it too troublesome? The ready-made Dark Loss law has long disappeared in the firmament world with the destruction of the Devil Clan. The forging method of this law is something that I have painstakingly found. You don't have to worry, the Holy Spirit Clan will not be easily subverted. I can wait for you for an era to forge the law and then wait for you to slowly grow. The chubby cerebrum said calmly. You're not in a hurry, but I am. Lu Wu was stunned when he heard the word an era. After all, an era was 100 million years. He only had 10,000 years. If he really had to slowly collect resources to forge an ultimate law like the Holy Spirit King, he would not be able to wait at all. However, Lu Wu would not explain this to the insect cerebrum. He planned to go back and study it to see if there was a way to speed up the forging of this ultimate law. So he immediately nodded. All right, then our alliance has been established. How will we contact each other in the future? For the time being, we will not contact each other. You and I will develop on our own until one day we can work together. All right, I have to leave a mark in your body. From now on, all the Void Insect Clan will be your allies to avoid unnecessary conflicts. As it spoke, the cerebrum wriggled in front of Lu Wu. Its body floated up and chirped on his right cheek, leaving a red mark. Then, the mark slowly disappeared into Lu Wu's body. Lu Wu suddenly felt that he had been taken advantage of. This silkworm baby actually kissed him. This is too much. Chapter 793. Since he had established an alliance with the baby silkworm, and it had given him the forging method of the ultimate law, Lu Wu decided to give the baby silkworm a gift as well. After all, the baby silkworm's insect tribe army was also very important in the fight against the Holy Spirit King in the future. The stronger they were, the more advantageous it would be for him. Thinking of this, a black hole connected to the artifact appeared in front of Lu Wu, and soul power gushed out from it. The baby silkworm's eyes widened when it smelled the soul power. In fact, it knew very little about the unification law. Now that it saw the soul power gushing out from the space, it knew without thinking that it must be the power of the unification law that gave Lu Wu this ability. Otherwise, no one in the entire firmament world would have the ability to control the soul power, not even the Holy Spirit King. Suddenly filled with curiosity, the baby silkworm floated into the air, trying to take a look into the black hole. What are you doing? Lu Wu was stunned. Let me see what's inside, the baby silkworm said with a curious face, and at the same time, it twisted its body into the artifact space. Looking at the baby silkworm's head that was about to drill into the artifact space, Lu Wu grabbed the back of its neck and dragged it back. Being grabbed by the back of its neck, the baby silkworm's body suddenly shrunk into a circle. At this moment, a force came from the baby silkworm, shaking off Lu Wu's hand. Then, the baby silkworm twisted its body and slowly landed on the ground. To Lu Wu's surprise, the baby silkworm's body turned red, and it looked very angry. Realizing that he seemed to have done something wrong, Luwu immediately waved his hand and condensed the soul power that gushed out into a coin. He handed it to the baby silkworm. Courtesy demands reciprocity. This is my gift to you. This soul coin was condensed by Luwu with 5 billion soul power, so it was very valuable. Smelling the soul power fluctuation on the soul coin, the angry baby silkworm's expression suddenly changed to one of curiosity. It picked up the soul coin in Luwu's hand with its mouth, held it in its mouth for a moment, and swallowed it directly. In an instant, the soul power exploded, and the baby silkworm's body expanded like a balloon. Surging soul power fluctuations spread out from its body. Seeing this scene, Luwu was shocked. He immediately prepared to help, lest the baby silkworm die from the soul power. However, he had clearly underestimated the silkworm. As the ruler of the insect race, its body quickly adapted to the surging soul power in its body, and it evolved organs that could digest soul power, quickly absorbing all the soul power in its body. Burp delicious! The silkworm lazily stretched its body and squinted its eyes in satisfaction. Luwu could not help but widen his eyes as he stared at the silkworm baby that was emitting sparkling light spots on its body. As expected of the law of evolution, the speed at which it absorbed soul power was several times faster than even his Tao integration stage power. One more, the silkworm baby said with a look of longing. That's all. Hearing these words, the silkworm baby showed a little grievance on its face, but was quickly covered up and it shook its head helplessly. Then let us bid farewell here, future allies. See you in the future. Luwu nodded. Darkness once again enveloped this space, leaving only a pair of green eyes blinking in the darkness. After leaving the space created by the silkworm babies, Luwu's figure appeared in the outside world. The players had seen Luwu's encounter with their own eyes, so they were not curious. However, the leader, Ironblood, was puzzled. In this regard, Luwu did not intend to explain. However, he now had an idea. Since he was going to fight against the Holy Spirit clan in the future, the more allies he had, the better. He could totally pull the Iron Blood clan into his camp. Moreover, the current Iron Blood clan trusted them very much, so there was still a lot of room for development. However, Luwu felt that now was not the time. He could not tell the Iron Blood clan about his alliance with the Zerg clan. Even if they could be trusted, the Holy Spirit King was an omniscient and omnipotent being, so the news might leak unintentionally. Therefore, before he had enough soul power to digitize the entire Iron Blood clan, he decided to put this idea aside for the time being. After that, he bid farewell to the Iron Blood clan and left this world with the players. Although the leader of the Iron Blood clan tried to persuade him to stay and rebuild the Iron Blood alliance with Luwu, Luwu refused. At the current stage of the Iron Blood galaxy, the Iron Blood clan was no longer oppressed by the mutants. It was only a matter of time before they could rebuild their glory. Moreover, there were no more benefits that Luwu wanted, so there was naturally no reason for him to stay. Regarding this, the leader of the Iron Blood clan felt that it was a pity, but he did not persuade him to stay. However, he solemnly expressed to Luwu that if there were any difficulties in the future, the Iron Blood clan would help him with the strength of the entire clan. His words were worth 1,000 words. After thanking him, Luwu left this world with the players. After leaving the common cultivation world, Luwu brought the players back to the Sky Devil's base in the glittering jewel world and gave the players a few days off. After all, the players were really tired after the war with the mutants for so many years. It was time for a good rest. Meanwhile, Luwu began to study the method of obtaining forging resources and forging methods of the Dark Lost rule. Although this supreme rule was definitely very powerful, Luwu could not afford to wait, so he could only find a way to find a shortcut. Otherwise, if he relied on the myriad worlds to obtain forging resources like the Holy Spirit King, the main world would have been long gone. After all, he only had less than 8,000 years left. Following his understanding, Luwu gradually understood the method of obtaining special soul power through equivalent exchange. This method was a kind of trade, but it was different from ordinary trade. This was a trade on the level of the soul. when Lu Wu tried to build the trading altar according to the method recorded in the Dark Lost Rule. He received countless messages in an instant. Some of these messages even came from billions of years ago. Back then, the Devil Clan spread the trading rules in the firmament world in order to obtain special soul power, and these messages were sent by the creatures who longed for equivalent exchange. It was a pity that the Devil Clan had long disappeared in the long river of history, so the trade could not be carried out anymore. However, after reading these messages, Lu Wu had an idea. He felt that he could carry on with the trade. He could first obtain a batch of special soul power. Then he could study whether special soul power could be produced by relying on the unification rule. If it was possible, then he could quickly forge the Dark Lost Rule. Without hesitation, Lu Wu immediately summoned the players who were strolling around the trading center and assigned them a new task. This time, he needed the players to go to various areas in the Outland to conduct equivalent exchange and obtain a batch of special soul power for himself. Lingnan World. This was an ordinary world that could not even be considered a small world. The internal spiritual energy was extremely thin, and it was close to the degenerate age of the human world. It was truly a low-level martial arts world. At this moment, in the south of this world, beside a lake in the center of a bustling ancient city, an old man was playing a flute. His white sideburns were messy in the breeze. The long flute sound surged by the lake, and the breeze caressed the willows. From time to time, fishes leaped out of the water, and birds sang in harmony. The scene was poetic and picturesque. However, the old man's eyes were full of vicissitudes and desolation. He had been fighting for his country all his life, and his 3 sons had even sacrificed their lives for the country. However, there was nothing they could do in the end. The enemy's army was approaching, and according to the information he had just received, his last son had also died in battle. The white-haired man sent the black-haired man off. When the sound of the flute stopped, he couldn't help but cry. How could he defend against thousands of soldiers and horses by himself? How could he protect the country of his ancestors? Your Majesty, Liao's army has breached the city gates. It's not too late to retreat. At this moment, a dignified man in armor hurried to the side of the white-haired old man and knelt on one knee. He could no longer remember how many times he had heard such grievous news today. However, a trace of determination flashed across his tired face. After dismissing the general, he had already made the final preparations in his heart. Dying in battle was not something he yearned for, but it was the last stubbornness in his heart. Compared to fleeing abroad after the fall of his country, he preferred to die in battle in his own country. At least until his death, he would still be the king of this country. At this moment, he strode toward the palace without a single guard by his side because everyone had been sent to the front lines. Then he put on his armor alone, polished his sword, and sat on the throne, quietly waiting for the arrival of the enemy. As he waited, the battle cries grew closer and closer, and he clenched the sword in his hand. When the main hall was breached and the enemy soldiers bathed in blood appeared in front of him, the old man stood up and pointed his sword forward. The enemy would not show mercy just because he was the king of this country. They strode toward him while brandishing their swords. At this moment, the old man also stepped forward and let out an angry roar. Kill! It seemed that if the plot continued, the old man would also sacrifice his life for the country and become the last king of this country before it was overthrown. However, at this moment, something strange suddenly happened. The old man suddenly realized that everything around him had become slow, and then a black figure appeared in front of him. Hey, you're the one who wants an equal exchange, aren't you? At this moment, everything around him stopped. The old man looked at the black figure in front of him in horror, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, he remembered something. At the beginning of the war between the two countries, he knew that there was a great disparity in combat power between the two sides, and that the final outcome would be the destruction of his country. At that time, he was already worried and sad about this. It was also at that time that he flipped through a book recorded by his ancestors, which recorded an extremely metaphysical thing. Demon Equivalent Exchange. The book described in detail a method to build an altar. According to the description, this altar could be used to contact an extremely powerful god, allowing them to fulfill their wishes. However, there was a price to be paid, which was to follow the terms of the contract and willingly offer their soul. At that time, he didn't think much of this record. However, as the war became more and more intense and the casualties on his side increased, he had no choice but to try building the altar. However, after waiting for 3 years, he still couldn't contact the god described in the ancient book. At that time, he thought that everything was fake and that it was too foolish and ridiculous to hope that he could save his country by praying to the gods. However, looking at the black figure that suddenly appeared in front of him, as well as the enemy troops that had stopped moving, he suddenly understood what was going on. Furthermore, the fact that the black figure said the words equivalent exchange clearly indicated his identity. Was it the deity behind the altar who had come? So they really do exist. Speak. Are you the one who wants an equivalent exchange? Are you ready to sell your soul? An impatient voice came from the black figure. Hearing this, the old man was terrified because this was the first time he had seen a real god. Looking at the figure and feeling the mighty pressure coming from him, a trace of determination appeared on the old man's face. Until now, he had nothing left. As long as he could save this country and not give up the foundation that his ancestors had built, he didn't mind giving up his soul. I'm willing to fulfill my promise. Equivalent exchange. After the old man said this, the Dark Loss contract was established, and the Dark Loss law imprint appeared in his soul. At this moment, Lu Chai's figure appeared above the palace, and he grinned at the old man. Tell me your wish. Chapter 794. Above the palace hall, Lu Chai's fist aura had bound everyone present, rendering them immobile. After the old man agreed to the equivalent exchange condition, the contract appeared and Lu Chai's figure finally appeared in the hall. The soldiers of the enemy kingdom were surprised to see a man suddenly appear beside the old man. However, they could not move at all as fear crept into their hearts. However, Lu Chai did not pay attention to the surprised looks of the soldiers at all. Instead, he turned to the old man and asked, "Tell me your wish." The old man nodded shakily. He took a deep breath and said, "I hope you can help me overthrow the enemy kingdom and kill all their soldiers so that they will never be able to rise again." The old man knew clearly that the enemy kingdom would still make a comeback, even if the crisis of the invasion was resolved. Only by completely overthrowing the enemy kingdom could the foundation laid by the ancestors be guaranteed to last for a long time. Even if he were to die, there would be a direct successor. Lu Chai did not answer. Instead, he turned on the analysis function and began to check the quality of the old man's soul. The equivalent exchange required the value of the wish and the soul to be equal. All the souls of the wisher must be special souls. However, it remained to be seen whether they were worth it or not. At this time, Lu Wu added a new analysis information on the analysis menu, soul quality. The quality of the old man's soul was displayed as 0. 8. The quality of the soul was not the strength of the soul. The strength of the soul could increase with the increase of strength, but the quality would not. Different souls had different qualities, and Lu Wu wanted these special souls. Only their souls would be converted and compressed into special soul power in the contract. After checking, Lu Chai shook his head. Your soul is not qualified enough for me to help you overthrow the enemy kingdom so that they will never be able to rise again. You have to change it. Hearing this, the old man's face showed a hint of desolation. He gritted his teeth and said, "Then help me to kill all the enemy kingdom invaders inside and outside the city." Upon hearing this, Lu Chai waved his hand and summoned a lost contract made by Lu Wu. Then, a hideous devil's head appeared in front of him. After the contract materialized, it was a scale with an energy line extending from one end to connect to the old man. On the other end, Lu Chai placed the digitized wish that the old man had said. The scale shook at this moment. The end connected to the old man slowly tilted up and reached a state of slight balance. At the same time, the devil's head in the center of the scale lit up, indicating that the deal was made. At this moment, Lu Chai nodded with satisfaction. In fact, it was not that Lu Chai was unwilling to help, but the Dark Lost rule required an equivalent exchange, and he could not give too much. This was the only way to obtain the compressed soul power of the Wisher. As for whom made this rule of the Vault World, Lu Chai asked Lu Wu before. However, Lu Wu's answer was that he was not sure either. Perhaps he was the creator of this rule, the one who set all the rules. Therefore, before they completely understood the law of darkness, they could only explore and obtain it according to the prescribed route. At this moment, the scale reached a balance, Lu Chai and Lost Law. The deal, Lu Chai. Lu nodded. As he spoke, Lu Chai waved his hand to disperse the fist intent. Suddenly, the soldiers who had stepped into the palace could move again. They looked at Lu Chai in horror, at a loss of what to do. This was just a low-level martial arts world. There was such a thing as inner force, but they had never seen Lu Chai's terrifying ability to freeze everyone with a wave of his hand. This was beyond their understanding. However, Lu Chai didn't even want to talk nonsense with them. With a snap of his fingers, the fist law descended again. In an instant, all the enemy kingdom soldiers who stepped into the palace exploded into a mist of blood, slowly drifting in the air. In the face of absolute power, they didn't even have the power to resist. As for their souls, they were all turned into soul power and experience points and were stored in Lu Chai's personal space. However, the soul power and experience points provided by these mortals were nothing to Lu Chai. They added up to less than 100 soul coins. At this moment, Lu Chai stepped forward and walked out of the palace. Everywhere he looked, there were enemy kingdom soldiers. Sorry, in order to complete the deal, you all have to die. Standing in front of the palace hall, Lu Chai said slowly in front of thousands of soldiers. At this moment, his voice resounded between heaven and earth. Then, countless blue fist prints appeared in the sky and fell like a meteor shower. At this moment, Lu Chai's body didn't move at all. He stood proudly and consciously controlled the fist prints to sweep through the bustling city. In the face of Lu Chai's power, the enemy kingdom soldiers had no power to resist at all. They couldn't even dodge. Martial arts masters, martial arts grandmasters, sword masters, and iron-armored imperial guards were easily penetrated by the fist prints like paper dolls. Then, they turned into powder and dissipated. At this time, the old man in the palace also walked out of the hall. When he saw the blue meteor shower and the countless enemy kingdom soldiers turn into powder under the meteor shower, he was completely stunned. He couldn't believe such power. Looking at Lu Chai standing in front of him and the indifference on his face, the old man couldn't stop his heart from trembling. Was this the power of a god? However, Lu Chai didn't care about the old man at all. He continued to control the fist intent to wreak havoc in the city. In less than 5 minutes, all the enemy kingdom soldiers in the city were dead. At this time, Lu Chai turned to look at the old man and said, "There's an army outside the city. I'll be back soon. Wait a moment." When the old man heard this, he immediately said, "Can you take me with you? I want to see them destroyed with my own eyes." Lu Chai thought about it and nodded. "This is my first time doing business. I'll fulfill this condition of yours." As Lu Chai's voice fell, the old man suddenly felt an invisible force supporting him. His vision suddenly became blurred, and in the blink of an eye, he found himself outside the city. Looking at the enemy kingdom's army below, the old man was shocked. Then, a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. "Kill them all. You can take my soul away." Lu Chai nodded and then calmly waved his fist downward. In an instant, the fist intent condensed and a blue brilliance shrouded the area below. Amidst the howling wind, the soldiers below were swallowed by the blue light before they could react. They left this world without any pain. Smoke and dust billowed. When the blue light faded, a deep pit with a diameter of 10,000 meters appeared below. The enemy kingdom's army stationed here had long since disappeared. Looking at all this, the old man couldn't stop trembling. He couldn't imagine that such power could be possessed by a seemingly ordinary person around him. What he couldn't achieve with all his might was accomplished by the god in front of him in a short period of time. It could even be said that it was effortless. He suddenly felt how insignificant he was. Sure enough, the world was big, but he was still a frog at the bottom of a well. Even if he pursued the Supreme King's way, it was just insignificant in the eyes of others. It's time to go. Do you have any last words? Lu Chai asked. The old man shook his head indifferently. His white hair fluttered in the air. Then, he clenched his fist and shouted in the direction of the city. May the Jin nation prosper forever. Looking at the vicissitudes in the old man's eyes, Lu Chai sighed and summoned the lost contract. At this moment, the contract was automatically formed. The old man's dim yellow eyes suddenly lost their focus. His soul was absorbed into the contract and began to be converted and compressed. After keeping the contract in his body, Lu Chai looked down at the people below and sighed again. Then, his figure disappeared on the spot. Lu Chai's arrival this time was for an equivalent transaction. He wanted to fulfill the wishes of the wisher and then obtain his soul. When Lu Wu activated the altar, he found countless messages of wishes from various worlds in the outer world. However, he filtered those messages that were from a long time ago. After all, it was still unknown whether the wisher still existed. Instead, he chose the messages that were relatively close in time and distributed them to the players. At this moment, not only Lu Chai, but all the players also made a move. They were the extraterrestrial demons, the gods who could fulfill the wishes of others. They were also the devils whose hands were stained with blood and tempted souls to fall. Chapter 795. It was another beautiful morning. One Blade Slash got up and washed up as usual. He then went to the computer desk. After booting up the computer, he skillfully lit a candle on the southeast corner of the desk, then opened the writer's assistant. Luck came first when creating web novels. Creativity came second. This was a first step before he wrote every day. He first lit up his luck so that he could have infinite power and inspiration when he wrote. After doing all this, he did not start writing right away. Instead, he opened the QQ software. Suddenly, a continuous beeping sound was heard. Glancing at the message list, One Blade Slash's face showed a hint of helplessness. There were no female readers contacting him, and it was just a bunch of silly readers tagging him. What's the point? After thinking about it, he opened the authors group to see what the big shots were talking about and to learn some experience. Green Shirt, drunk. If there were two websites like A and B, it would offer a share of around 100 per thousand words, and there would be a chance to travel abroad every year, and they would give the author 5 insurances and 1 housing fund. Website B is a reading department, and there is no guarantee. They only sign a 50-50 split, but they promise to give the author a platinum contract within a year. Then, what do these two websites have to do with you? Why are you still in the group instead of writing? Yindong Lu. I'm hiding some money today. My wife doesn't know. So happy. Chi Pei Jia. I'm taking a day off today because I'm going to the reading annual gala. Wu Ma Xing. This year I'm on the 12 Kings. I'll put my hands on my waist for a while, proudly with hands on waist. JPG, Zhugo Wanjun. Anyone want to play Warcraft together? Let's put writing aside. Games make you happy. Looking at the Big Shots chat, One Blade Slash suddenly felt humble and weak. Then he skillfully typed a line of Big Shots 666 and closed the group chat. After opening the writer's assistant again and clicking on the outline of I'm the boss behind the scenes, One Blade Slash tried to start writing. But after typing the first line, he skillfully opened Bilibili to watch videos, then opened Steam to play games, then read a novel for a while. Finally, he stood in front of the window and quietly watched the night fall. As for writing, didn't he already write a line of words? One Blade Slash's confused face. JPG. He was such a self-disciplined author. If he said he was going to write, then he would say it and not do anything. So today was another day of failure. His position in the authors group was also very low. He could only watch enviously as the Big Shots pretended to be humble and real. Of course, there were times when the Big Shots in the group would show off in his area of expertise. That would be the time for him to shine. For example, if they were to compare whose new book was worse, he could jump out and say, "Who else but me can do it?" He tearfully took a screenshot of the data and told the Big Shots in the group that they were all little brothers and that he was the most useless one. Looking at the time, it was getting closer and closer to midnight. One Blade Slash knew that it was time for him to get into the groove of writing. After all, there were so many lovely readers waiting for updates. As a good author, he couldn't let them down. Thus, he deleted the line of words that he had typed in the morning and changed it to take a day off to organize the outline. There were only a few hundred words left, and the task for the day was completed. One Sword Slash slumped into his chair, feeling as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He felt that a hard day had passed just like that. Next, he turned on his phone and began to read the book. Dreamtime. You can't even keep up with the most basic updates. I've misjudged you. Angry emoji, orange heart leaf, burp, delicious, Fox 9 June, checking in daily. After glancing at it, there was a hint of shame on One Blade Slash's face. Don't I still have readers? How can I let them down? No, I have to delete the leave request and start writing. Thus, with a serious face, he opened the author's assistant again and clicked on, I'm the big boss behind the scenes. However, after glancing at the pitiful daily reading, there was a hint of helplessness on his face. When can I become a reading platinum? I can't see the end of the road to failure. At that moment, he suddenly thought of a post that he had accidentally seen on the internet. In the post, there was a detailed description of a very metaphysical altar. It was said that this altar could satisfy any person's wish. If all of this was true, then becoming a god was just around the corner. According to the original poster, the altar described in the post was recorded in a dilapidated ancient book that was dug out from an ancient tomb. There was a slight possibility that it could be done. Regarding this, One Blade Slash did not believe a single punctuation mark. What a joke. I've never believed in metaphysics. However, after looking at the candle in the southeast corner, One Blade Slash skillfully opened the web page, clicked on the favorite post, and carefully read it. Since I'm not strong enough, then I'll try metaphysics to become a god. After carefully reading the post 3 times, One Blade Slash found that the method of building the altar did not seem difficult. Many of the materials could be found in reality. Thinking of this, he looked again at the candle in the southeast corner that was about to be extinguished. Then, he clicked on the omnipotent shopping website and placed a series of orders. Soon, a year had passed. During this period, One Blade Slash was still failing. As for buying materials to build the altar and making a wish, he had long forgotten about it. At that time, after building the altar, he waited for a week full of anticipation. After that, he lost interest because he knew that those metaphysical things were not reliable. Instead of believing that the god behind the altar could make him a platinum author, it was better to write a few more words. Although the hope was slim, at least there was a slight chance that it would not be. This day, One Blade Slash was writing. At that moment, he suddenly felt a chill on his back. Then, his right shoulder sank, and a voice whispered in his right ear. Young man, what is your wish? One Blade Slash was so shocked that he immediately jumped up from his seat. Then, he turned his head to look to his right. Suddenly, he saw a very cute little white dog lying on his right shoulder, looking at him with a serious face. Young man, what is your wish? The dog continued to repeat in a low voice. You? Who are you? One Blade Slash hurriedly asked. I am the god behind the altar. Now, tell me your wish. The dog continued to look serious. One Blade Slash was stunned. After thinking for a while, he remembered that he had indeed built the altar and made a wish a year ago. He did not expect that his attempt would actually come true. At this moment, his worldview was greatly impacted. So the altar was real, and there really was a god. The only thing he could not figure out was why the god was a little white dog. Can you really fulfill my wish? One Blade Slash asked in a doubtful tone. I could do anything. Tell me your wish. As long as it's of equal value, I can fulfill it. The dog raised his head, looking a little proud. I want to write a super best-selling novel and become a platinum author. One Blade Slash's expression gradually became joyful. No problem. Next, we'll weigh it by equal value. As soon as the dog's voice fell, a devil's head appeared on his forehead, which then turned into a scale. One end was connected to the loser One Blade Slash, while the dog placed the data of the wish that One Blade Slash had mentioned on the other end. The scale swayed and slowly descended toward one blade slash. Although it was tilted, it had reached a state of slight balance. Seeing this, the dog nodded in satisfaction. Very good. Your wish can be fulfilled. Next, tell me the details of your wish. The dog said in a low voice with a straight face. You're a god, so it should be very simple for you. All you have to do is help me write a super best-selling novel. That way, I'll be able to become a platinum author. One Sword Slash chuckled. He had no idea what the price of making a wish was. Writing. The dog was stunned. Wait, tell me more details. The dog had a bad feeling in his heart. Hearing this, One Blade Slash immediately began to explain in detail. He explained the writing and the publication of the work, as well as collecting the monthly votes and subscriptions from the readers to appraise the quality of the work, and so on. After listening for a while, the dog's expression fell. He felt like he had taken on the wrong order. From the exchange on the forum, the dog found out that a few players had already received wishes. The missions they completed were either revenge or slaughter. The process was easy and pleasant. What kind of idiotic mission did he take on? Writing? I don't know how. However, this was the first time he came out to do business, so the dog didn't plan to give up. He continued to listen to One Blade Slash's analysis of writing, then nodded to indicate that he was listening. After a while, One Blade Slash said with a face full of anticipation, God, I've said everything I need to say. Can you complete it? No problem. Move aside and let me write one for you. The dog said with a face full of stubbornness. 1 month later, in the same room, the dog lay on the computer table with a serious expression. His claws turned into phantoms as he typed furiously on the keyboard. In terms of writing talent, the dog improved at lightning speed. In the beginning, he could only write a few hundred words a day. Now, he could write 2 million words a day. The only thing that didn't change was that his subscriptions and monthly votes were still 0. Occasionally, he would get a few recommendation votes, which were given by the readers out of pity. Now, apart from the full attendance award, he didn't gain anything else. During this period of time, the dog's mentality completely exploded. How could there be such a wish? Why did I agree to sign a contract with him? He's the King Devil, filled with grief and indignation. He finished writing 2 million words for the day. The dog opened the book with a face full of anticipation, trying to find a reader who might be reading it. However, after waiting for 3 hours, there were still no subscriptions for the day. At this moment, the dog's mentality completely exploded. He raised the keyboard and smashed it. One Blade Slash, who was hiding not far away, trembled when he saw this. From the initial respect to the current fear, One Blade Slash felt that he shouldn't have made a wish in the first place. This mad dog had smashed 8 of his keyboards in the past month. Originally, there was still a group of loyal readers under the pen name One Blade Slash, but ever since the dog's ghostwriting, it completely collapsed. Now, other than having more than 10 novels under the pen name, there was nothing else. Even the editor advised him to change his profession and not to write novels. With the speed of writing 2 million words a day, there was nothing else he could do. Why did he choose to make a living? His heart was filled with grief and indignation, but he didn't dare to say it or ask. He was afraid that he would be torn apart by this mad dog. It's too hard for me. Little Blade, hurry up and buy a new keyboard. Tomorrow, you'll definitely become a god. At this moment, the dog's shouting could be heard. Hearing this, One Blade Slash, who was hiding next door, couldn't help but secretly wipe his tears. What bullsh** god? He's simply a devil. Chapter 796. While the players traveled to various worlds to fulfill the wishes of the wisher and collect special soul power, there were always some lame quests that made them lose their minds. In the forum, some enthusiastic players sorted out a series of lame wishes that they encountered at this stage and prepared to compile them into a book. This was to warn the players who were running around outside that they could choose to give up on some lame quests. During this period, the efficient players had already completed 2 to 3 transactions, while the poor players were still on their first transaction, and some of them had not even started their first transaction. For example, Sun Chi never turned back on the path of a lame author. Sun Chi, who was doing business for the first time, did not want to give up this transaction at all. Even if it was difficult, he had to fight to the end. Although this quest did not require killing, its difficulty level was already the highest in the forum. In order to take away the soul of this lame author, Sun Chi had completely become obsessed. His head was full of updates, and he could not stop writing. He even swore in his heart that he would not leave until he wrote an earth-shattering work. He was determined to take the life and soul of this author. While Sun Chi was running on the road to prove his Tao, his big brother, Gu Yu, had also received his first equivalent transaction mission, Ella World, the freezing region of the polar region. It snowed all year round, and the temperature was extremely low. Almost no living creature could survive here for long. However, in the depths of such an environment, there was a large city. All the buildings inside were built with ice. At this time, tens of thousands of human beings in black robes were shivering in the extreme cold, but they did not choose to hide in the buildings. Instead, they surrounded an altar and kowtowed. They were not born in this extremely cold world, but they were forced to come here and build a city. However, this world of ice and snow did not have any resources they needed. Food was getting scarce day by day, and the number of people was decreasing day by day. If this continued, they would not last more than a few months. But asking them to leave this world of extreme cold was an even more suicidal method. Because the outside world had long been invaded by monsters and dead monsters, the war between the two sides of the gods had spread to their world, and disaster swept across the land. They were originally believers of one of the gods, Cursin Camp. Every day, they worshipped the gods of Cursin Camp, hoping to get their protection. However, when the Battle of the Gods began, not only did they not receive any protection, but they also became sacrifices. Apart from the battle between the top gods, the gods of both sides had also summoned a large number of undead creatures in this world to attack each other's domain. The undead creatures in Exion's camp were collectively referred to as monsters. On the other hand, the undead creatures summoned by Munsa were dead monsters. The battle between the two camps of gods was extremely fierce, and the consumption was even greater. Therefore, these dark gods set their sights on their believers, wanting to gain power from them. At the same time this thought appeared, the gods of both sides did not hesitate to capture a large number of believers as sacrifices in order to win, turning them into a part of their own power. At this point in the war, there were only a few creatures left in this world, but the gods still had no mercy. They were still ordering the monsters and undead to capture the remaining believers. And the tens of thousands of believers who built cities in the world of ice and snow had fled here from the calamity. The temperature here was extremely high. Although they could survive, they wouldn't be able to last long without any supplies. At this moment, they were surrounding the altar and praying to the gods of Exion's camp, hoping that they would be forgiven and be spared. In the extreme cold, their faces were frozen purple, but they still did not stop praying. This was their only hope. Although the gods they worshipped were slaughtering them, they were powerless to resist and could only pray for forgiveness. Dong, dong, dong. At this moment, the sound of a bell suddenly sounded in the city. Hearing this sound, the faces of all the worshippers revealed expressions of fear. This was because they knew that the monsters were attacking, and this bell was being rung by the guards on the watchtower at the city gate. At this moment, they did not run because there was no way out. They could only lower their heads and continue praying with pleading expressions, hoping that the gods who wanted to sacrifice them would spare them at the last moment. However, to the gods, their lives were nothing more than a bargaining chip to defeat the gods of the enemy camp. This was the only value they had. At this moment, the monster army braved the flying snow and arrived at the city gate, beginning to attack. The remaining guards were powerless against this force, and in a short period of time, the city gate was closed. The massacre had begun. However, at this moment, in one of the buildings in the city, a young man clenched his fists and used his blood to draw a formation on the ground. Then he put his palms together and knelt on the ground, chanting. Beside him, there was a book that recorded several ways to build an altar. One of the easiest ways was to use one's own blood to draw formation. According to the contents of the book, he kept praying, trying to contact the god behind the altar described in the book. In reality, he had no confidence that this method would work. This was because this method of praying had been passed down in this world for at least hundreds of thousands of years. During this period, many people had tried praying according to the contents of the book, but none had succeeded. Therefore, it was basically confirmed that this method of praying was fabricated and could not be trusted. Otherwise, why had no god come to fulfill the wishes of those who prayed for it for hundreds of thousands of years? However, even though he knew that it would not work, the young man continued to mutter, wanting to try. His hands, which had turned purple from the cold, were clenched tightly, showing his nervousness. As he waited, he heard a scream outside. He could not help but turn his head to look at his weak mother, who was lying on the bed. Then, he closed his eyes again and continued to chant. At this moment, the door was kicked open, and crushed ice flew everywhere. An ugly devil with a foul smell was staring at him with its hollow eyes. Then, it raised a black sharp blade in its hand and pounced on him. The fear in the young man's heart made his mind go blank. He knew that it was over. Everything was over. Even if he escaped here, he could not escape the fate of being killed and becoming a sacrifice. However, at this moment, the formation under his knees emitted a bloody light, and then a figure appeared in front of him. This person was extremely handsome, with a bloody mark on his forehead. He was wearing a cloak embroidered with the word Heavenly Devil, and was looking at him quietly. Soul quality 4. 8. Oh ho, I found a treasure. Guyu exclaimed after analyzing the young man's soul quality. Then, he looked at the devil that was roaring and pouncing on him. Trash! As he curled his lips, Guyu's chi and blood force swept forward, and the devil was instantly turned into powder, scattering on the ground. Young man, tell me your wish. Looking at the terrified young man, Guyu squatted down and said with a smile, Are you the god behind the altar? There was a glimmer of expectation in the young man's eyes. Sort of, tell me your wish, but the price is that I want your soul. Save my mother, save my people. Upon hearing this, the young man quickly took a step back, knelt on the ground, and kowtowed to Guyu. Seeing this, Guyu's face was full of pain. In fact, it was a trade of equal value. The young man did not need to put on such a posture to talk to him. He only needed to tell him his wish. Now, this made him feel a little embarrassed. After all, his identity this time was not considered a good person, and he was going to take away the soul. All right, tell me your wish, and I'll weigh it with equal value. Guyu frowned and said, I hope that you can save my mother. She's in a very serious condition now. I also hope that you can save my people, and not let them be harmed by the devil. The young man continued to kowtow, and, at the same time, he spoke sincerely. This time, Guyu did not answer. Suddenly, a demonic mark appeared on his forehead, and a scale appeared. During the weighing, what surprised Guyu was that the quality of the young man's soul was obviously heavier, and his wish was lighter. In other words, the trade of equal value was not valid. This made Guyu a little stunned, but after thinking for a while, he said, What other wishes do you have? Tell me all of them. Hearing this, the young man was at a loss. In his impression, gods were harsh and arrogant existences, and there was no possibility for them to negotiate with mortals. Agreeing to any of his requests was already a kind of charity. However, Guyu had subverted his understanding of gods. Great God, I don't have any extravagant requests. I only hope that you can fulfill these 2 requests of mine. I'm willing to offer my soul. The young man kowtowed sincerely on the ground and spoke again. Guyu was speechless. Little brother, I can't do business with you like this. Just think of a few wishes. Hurry up. The harder it is to fulfill, the better. Guyu immediately opened his eyes and said. The young man was startled and stammered. I'm not sure. At this moment, the scale that contained the digitized wish information slowly floated up, but the tilt was still very serious, and it had not reached a balance point. At this moment, the scale that contained the digitized wish information slowly floated up, but it was still tilted very seriously, and had not reached a balance point. Continue. I hope that my mother will never fall sick again. I hope that my dead father can come back to life. As the young man continued to speak incoherently, the scale finally reached a balance point. With the flashing of the demonic head, the contract was established at this moment. Guyu did not waste any time. With a wave of his hand, a stream of chi and blood flowed into the body of the young man's mother, and then he slowly walked out of the igloo. At this moment, the chi and blood in Guyu's body overflowed and turned into a large bloody net that covered the city. At this moment, all the devils inside were locked on by the chi and blood, and they exploded one after another. Roar! Who dares to touch my soldiers? At this moment, there was an explosive roar in the sky, and then a huge body slowly descended, floating above the city. With the arrival of this figure, all the believers in the city knelt on the ground in horror and began to worship this demon god. Seeing this scene, Guyu could not help but twitch his mouth. How could a mere late ghost emperor have the courage to call himself a demon god? If you're a demon god, then what am I? Thinking of this, Guyu's body floated into the air, and as the bloody god seal on his forehead shone brilliantly, the shadow of the demonic god appeared behind him. Roar! The shadow of the demonic god roared, and the most extreme evil thoughts swept forward. At this moment, the expression of the demon god that descended instantly changed from ferocious to terrified. Chapter 797. In the demonic god state, Guyu's body was filled with intense evil thoughts. They turned into ripples and spread outwards, impacting the demon god's nerves. At this moment, the demon god, who had a ferocious expression, was shocked. He had never seen such pure evil thoughts. Even the celestial king, who was at the top of the cursing camp, did not have such a terrifying sense of oppression. At this moment, he seemed to see mountains of corpses and seas of blood behind Guyu, as well as endless scenes of slaughter. He could not imagine how much blood this man's hands were stained with. This almost materialized killing intent was beyond his understanding. He even had an illusion that even if he killed all the creatures in this world, he would not be able to condense such evil killing intent. How about I kill your demonic soldiers? Guyu asked with a hideous smile. As soon as he finished speaking, Guyu clenched his fist. Suddenly, the power of chi and blood boiled below him. All the demonic soldiers that were locked on were instantly turned into blood-red burning men. So what if I kill them again? The heavenly demonic cloak fluttered in the cold wind. Guyu raised his head and stared at the demon god as he asked again. I'm here to make a deal. Do I have to follow your orders? Seeing this, the demon god did not dare to speak anymore. He did not even dare to raise his head and look into Guyu's burning red eyes. This was because he realized that whenever he looked into Guyu's eyes, he would feel an uncontrollable fear and despair. This power that could erode his emotions was truly frightening. You're not the god of this world, are you? I think there's a misunderstanding between us. How about letting me go? Otherwise, you'll never be able to leave this world. The demon god gritted his teeth as he resisted the urge to escape. Never be able to leave? You're threatening me. The flames in Guyu's eyes suddenly shrank. The materialized, black, evil thoughts instantly entangled the demon god's body and invaded his body. The demon god immediately began to tremble. Intense fear completely broke out, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably. Don't kill me, an outsider. Otherwise, the gods of the cursing camp will not let you go. No matter how strong you are, how can you fight against the alliance of gods? Under the fear of death, the demon god spoke in horror. If there was a glimmer of hope for survival if he knelt and begged for mercy, these words undoubtedly made Guyu want to kill him. As members of the heavenly demon army and players, they had never been afraid of a powerful enemy. Anyone who tries to stop me from completing the transaction will die. As Guyu's voice faded, his pupils turned black. Endless evil thoughts appeared out of thin air on the surface of this demon god's body and penetrated into his body. Pitch-black flames rose from the inside out. The demon god could not resist Guyu's burning of evil thoughts at all. He screamed and turned into ashes, falling into the city along with the snowstorm. His soul was immediately converted into experience points and soul coins and stored in Guyu's personal space. Looking at Guyu floating in the air, all the believers in the city below were stunned. This person actually killed a demon god. Furthermore, it was done in such an understated manner. They were initially puzzled by Guyu's appearance. This man dared to provoke the demon god. In their eyes, he was truly audacious. Moreover, they had never seen Guyu before. Although this world was extremely vast, the gods of the Restraining Heart camp and the Munsa camp had some understanding of it. This was because they had built statues and reference charts for the gods of this world to use in prayer and worship. Therefore, they were puzzled by the inexplicable Guyu. At this moment, after witnessing the power displayed by Guyu, the doubts in their hearts turned into fear. Perhaps Guyu did it to protect them, but one had to know that this demon god was backed by the gods of the Restraining Heart camp. If they took revenge, then they would still end up in an extremely miserable state. They might even be tortured before they died. At this moment, Guyu naturally did not know what the people below were thinking and did not want to know. His figure slowly descended and once again arrived in front of the ice house. When a young man standing at the door saw his arrival, he quickly knelt down and began to kowtow while mumbling. Guyu felt very helpless about this. We're just doing a transaction. It's useless for you to kowtow like this. I'm definitely going to take your soul away. After using the power of chi and blood to lift the young man from the ground, Guyu stepped into the house. At this moment, the young man's mother had already regained consciousness under the restoration of the power of chi and blood. Moreover, she had already heard about Guyu from the young man. Immediately, she fell to the ground with a look of hesitation. After adjusting her posture, she began to kowtow to Guyu. Guyu was now very speechless about this world. Were they all believers? Why did they kowtow so easily? They must have all been brainwashed. He really disliked this kind of environment. Your next wish is to resurrect your father, right? Now, give me the relevant information about your father. Guyu turned his head and looked at the young man at the door and said. The young man quickly knelt down and began to describe his father's appearance and characteristics. After listening to the young man's description, Guyu nodded. However, he really could not fulfill this wish, but someone else could. In the aspect of souls, the person behind the scenes was the real expert. Thinking of this, Guyu clicked on a friend list, then clicked on Lu Wu's profile picture and sent a voice message. Dog official, I need your help. I need to find a soul now. Amazing tribes, expectation. JPG, after waiting for a moment, a game notification rang in Guyu's mind. Game notification. Detecting all the souls in your world. Generating classification list. As Guyu waited, the list of information detected by the artifact slowly appeared in front of him. The specific categories were as follows. The characteristics of the soul's strength, the soul's previous life's gender, the soul's quality. A series of classification lists could help Guyu better locate the soul that he needed to find. At this moment, Guyu began to act. He began to search according to the information provided by the young man and finally locked onto 23 souls. After asking for a while, Guyu locked onto one of the souls. Suddenly, the information of this person's soul appeared in Guyu's mind. Safin, soul status. Current location, within the reincarnation small world controlled by the ruler of the Munsa camp. Specific coordinate information. After knowing the soul coordinates of the young man's father, Guyu turned his head to look at the young man and said, I'm going to look for your father. You guys can just wait here. After thinking about it, Guyu took out a low-level spiritual material from the channel and handed it to the young man. This would at least ensure that the young man would not starve to death while he was away. The young man hesitantly took it and felt the warmth that spread from the spiritual material. His face revealed an infatuated expression. Ignoring the young man who knelt down on the ground again, Guyu stepped out of the igloo. Then, he raised his hand and waved. Suddenly, the power of blood and chi enveloped the city and isolated the extreme cold outside. Then, he tore apart the space and headed straight for the reincarnation small world of this world. After a few space shuttles, Guyu appeared in a reincarnation small world that was shrouded in fog. This place was similar to the six paths of reincarnation world in the underworld, but there were many differences. Guyu realized that his consciousness could completely penetrate the fog to investigate. Therefore, Guyu began to search according to the coordinates given by the game. What Guyu did not know was that at the same time he entered this small world, the ruler of this small world had also detected him and sent a distress message to the gods in the Munsa camp. At this moment, the gods of the Munsa camp were all heading towards this small world. Among them, the top combat power had the ability of the god state. It did not take much effort for Guyu to search for the soul of the young man's father. With the help of the game hints given by Lu Wu, Guyu quickly found the confused soul of the young man's father and kept it in his personal space. His behavior was undoubtedly a slap in the face of the gods of the Munsa camp. However, Guyu did not feel pressured at all. What was wrong with snatching a soul from a member of the heavenly demon army? Was there a problem? However, just as he was about to leave, countless figures appeared in front of him. They did not waste any time talking to Guyu and immediately launched an attack. This was because Guyu had violated their taboo and came to the forbidden place where their ruler was. The battle began in an instant. At this moment, Guyu once again turned into the demonic god. The surging power of blood and chi forced the fog in the space to retreat, and the violent killing intent and evil thoughts swept forward. Great demonic god of the underworld. The demonic god's signature ability was displayed by Guyu at this moment. In an instant, he turned into a form with 3 heads and 6 arms and faced the gods head-on. Boom! At the moment of the collision, Guyu single-handedly resisted the gods. Accompanied by his roar, the power of blood, and chi rose like a flame, and most of the gods of the Munsa camp were sent flying. Although they were terrified of the oppressive feeling that Guyu brought to them, these demon gods bit the bullet and launched another attack. In a violent collision, the number of gods in the Munsa camp increased, and among them, there were many powerhouses who had broken through to the god state. Although there were only 5 of them, their combined combat power still made Guyu feel pressured. At the same time, the ruler who was hiding in the dark also began to control this small world to oppress Guyu. The battle lasted for a few hours, and Guyu had killed more than 10 Ghost Emperor Rel powerhouses. However, the number of enemies did not decrease, but increased instead. Under such circumstances, Guyu grasped the void and wanted to tear the space to leave. This was because he could not use his full combat power to fight in this small world. However, what surprised Guyu was that he could not tear the space. The surrounding space had been sealed by the ruler of this small world who wanted to keep him here and kill him. Faced with such a situation, Guyu felt extremely helpless. At this moment, he could only choose to burn his soul power and forcefully tear the space of this small world. Then, his figure flickered and he left. At this moment, the gods of the Munsa camp, who were already in a frenzy, chased after him. What Guyu did not know was that at this moment, the gods of the Cursing camp were also searching for him. The moment he appeared, the ruler of the Cursing camp sensed his presence and conveyed the information to the gods of the Cursing camp. The gods of the Cursing camp immediately gathered and chased in the direction of Guyu. Now, Guyu had to fight against the 2 strongest camps of the gods in this world. There were more than 10 godly state powerhouses and close to 10,000 Ghost Emperor peak stage powerhouses. In the midst of a chase, the gods of the 2 camps met. However, this time, they did not kill each other. Instead, after a discussion, they decided to make a temporary truce and kill the foreign invaders, Guyu first. Guyu cursed in his heart. However, under the situation where he could not defeat them, he could only choose to escape. If Guyu really wanted to escape, the gods of this world could not do anything to him. After all, in terms of individual strength, Guyu was stronger than all the gods of this world, including the god kings of the 2 camps. This kind of chase lasted for a few days before the helpless Cursing camp and the gods of the Munsa camp met again. After some discussion, they finally chose to cooperate. Although they were from opposing camps, Guyu was an outsider and there were many unknown factors about him. Therefore, they were afraid of Guyu. They would not be at ease if they did not get rid of him. With the cooperation of the 2 camps, the efficiency of the chase increased. Under such circumstances, Guyu knew that he was no match for the deities of these two camps. It was not a solution for him to keep on fleeing. Under such circumstances, Guyu gave in. However, he did not compromise with the gods of this world, but with himself. Although what he was going to do next was embarrassing, he could not lose the face of the heavenly demon army. While escaping, Guyu opened his friends list. Guyu, group message, who is free? I need help. I'm being chased. Duh, boss, I'm writing. I finally have a reader today. I promised him to write 5 million words a day, and he agreed to give me a monthly vote. Guyu replied to Dog, stop writing. Hurry up and save the day. I'll go back to writing after I'm done. Dog, all right, boss, give me your coordinates. I'll be there immediately. Goo 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 QVQ today. AOGN. I just finished a deal. Boss Goo, give me your coordinates. Lu Chai. Haha. Boss Goo, you're asking for help for your first deal. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Remember to reimburse your soul coins. I'm coming. Yishua. I've already completed 2 deals. I didn't expect Boss Goo to have yet to complete the first one. Hee. How embarrassing. However, we, the heavenly demon army, must not lose our face. Send me your coordinates. Mo Ling Tian. Boss Goo, send me your coordinates. My deal is very simple. There's no hurry. I'll help you complete the deal first. Reinhardt. Boss Goo, send me your coordinates. I just happened to help my boss complete a difficult mission. I'm free now. Laughing emoji. A cloud-piercing arrow. Group message. Thousands of soldiers and horses came to meet. Although the players acted alone, they were always a team. They were all members of the heavenly demon army. After thousands of years of war, unity had long been engraved in their hearts. At this moment, when he received Guyu's group message, his WeChat moments immediately exploded with activity. While laughing at Guyu's embarrassment, they all came to the coordinates sent by Guyu. Seeing the players' replies, Guyu finally decided not to run. At this moment, the gods who were chasing him descended around him. The demon gods from both camps did not waste any time and immediately launched an attack on Guyu. At this moment, Guyu no longer retreated. He burned his soul power and decisively activated the demonic god form. He pounced on the gods that filled the sky. During the battle, Guyu's wounds kept increasing. At this moment, a celestial king from Kursin's camp took advantage of the moment when Guyu killed a ghost emperor peak stage. He punched Guyu's neck and sent him flying. Looking at the injured Guyu tumbling in the air, the celestial king could not help but laugh. Let's see where else you can run to. At this moment, Guyu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. A ferocious smile appeared on his face. Are you bullying me with numbers? You better King see who has more people. Stop watching the show. I'm going to hold a grudge if you don't come out now. As Guyu's voice fell, countless shadows appeared behind him. Their figures slowly solidified in the air. Boss, it's not that I don't want to fight. They forced me to hide and watch you embarrass yourself. I didn't do it on purpose. The dog laughed. Guyu glared at the dog. He then turned to look at the celestial king in front of him and said with a ferocious smile, Come on, show me how awesome you are. As Guyu's voice fell, the aura of the players standing behind him began to rise. Their heavenly demonic cloaks fluttered in the wind. The aura of the ultimate sword will, the domineering fist will, the aura of the dragon will, and so on. Different forces converged at this moment, turning into a substantial oppressive aura that radiated forward. The fear in the hearts of Kursin and the gods from Munsa's camp grew and finally boiled. Chapter 798. Guyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared coldly at the gods in front of him. However, at this moment, the gods from Kuexian's camp and Munsa's camp did not dare to make a move. If Guyu was alone, even if he was extremely powerful, they would find a way to take him down and eliminate the hidden danger. However, at this moment, their strength was obviously not enough. Looking at the players who were all wearing the heavenly demonic cloak, the gods from Kuexian's and Munsa's camp were completely panicked. In fact, ever since Guyu came to this world, he had never thought of fighting with the gods of this world. After all, there were many wishes and everyone was rushing to complete them. They They all wanted to complete this order and continue in the next world. However, the gods of this world obviously did not give him any face. Since that was the case, Guyu did not want to be polite anymore. If you want to compete in numbers, let's compete. Master Gu, what do you think we should do? Should we kill them all or what? Aojin asked. As his voice trailed off, a sharp sword aura swept forward, causing the gods in front of him to feel pain and panic. Wait, we admit defeat. At this moment, the godly king from Kexian's camp was the first to admit defeat. Knowing that he would definitely lose, he gave up the idea of continuing the battle and wanted to negotiate with Guyu. There might be some misunderstanding between us. Can we talk? The godly king from Munsa's camp said. If you want to fight, I will fight. If you want to talk, I will talk. Who the F***CK do you think you are? You're wasting my time writing. It's not easy for me to find a reader. Gugugu might run away today. Can you afford to compensate me? Sun Chi could not help but grit his teeth. Boss, kill him. At this moment, Guyu did not want to talk nonsense anymore. After being chased for so many days, the anger in his heart had already reached a critical point. Moreover, he had a bad impression of the gods of this world. Killing them was not a big deal. Hence, he turned around and said, Brothers, we will reimburse the soul coins later. Kill. Hearing Guyu's order to kill, the players' faces revealed a ferocious smile. Corpse coffin burial. At this moment, the sky was filled with black crows that quickly surrounded the godly king from Kexian's camp. Then, they turned into corpse coffins and sealed him. The extremely corrosive corpse energy spread in the corpse coffins. Intense pain assaulted him from all directions. The god kings of Kexian's camp could not help but cry out in pain. At this time, the corpse energy was pouring into their bodies through their mouths, and the pain became even more intense. He tried to struggle, but found that he was unable to break free from the corpse coffin shackles. Explode. As he clenched his fist, the corpse coffin began to collapse inwardly. Then, it exploded with a loud bang, and a thick corpse aura surged in the air, forming a mushroom cloud. At this time, the God King's flesh had already been corroded by the corpse energy. All that was left of him was a skeleton. Although he was not dead yet, he looked extremely wretched. After he made his move, Ao Jian and the others also took action. Sword intent, fist intent, and other nomological powers were instantly activated. Although there was no nomological spiritual chi in this world that they needed, they had reserves of spiritual chi in their bodies. They did not have to worry about not being able to cast nomological spells. At this moment, a green light enveloped Guyu, and the injuries on his body rapidly healed. Then, he followed the army of players and charged towards the gods of this world. The gods of this world would never have imagined that they would welcome the twilight of the gods in such a way. It was not because of the years of war between the two camps, nor was it because of the sins they had committed against the creatures of the mortal world, nor was it because of their own depravity. It was all because of a little boy who made a wish to the heavenly devil. And the gods of this world had become obstacles and sacrifices because they had blocked the heavenly devil's way to fulfill the little boy's wish. At this moment, the twilight of the gods was a bloodbath. However, this was not a tragic epic war, but a one-sided massacre. Perhaps the gods of Kexian and Munsa camp could do whatever they wanted in this small world and be worshipped by the people of the world, but in the face of the players who had been fighting for many years, they could not withstand a single blow. After all, they were just frogs at the bottom of a well. How could the gods of the godly realm and ghost emperor realm fight against the players? As the clansmen around them died one after another, the remaining gods and demons immediately had the idea of escaping. This was because they knew that if they continued to fight like this, none of them would survive. However, this world had already been sealed by the seven ghost realm. No matter how hard they tried to tear the space apart, the space was extremely stable, firmly locking them in place. The one-sided massacre lasted for about 3 hours and was about to come to an end. At this moment, the remaining demon gods had completely lost their arrogant attitude. They knelt in the ghost realm and begged for forgiveness from Guyu and the others. They were even willing to worship them as the new celestial kings of this world. In response, Guyu used the erosion of evil thoughts to respond. The last 5 gods and demons of this world were devoured by the flame of evil thoughts and fear and turned into nothingness. After doing all this, Guyu retracted the demonic god's shadow and turned to look at Sun Chi and the others helplessly. "Come on, mock me, I'll take it." Sun Chi, who was smiling, heard this and immediately became serious. "Whoever dares to mock my boss is my enemy. I'll be the first to beat him up." "Silly dog, you're the one who suggested hiding and watching the battle. I said I wanted to help, but you still pulled me and refused to let go." Lu Chai grinned. "Yes, Boss Gu, we wanted to show up for a long time, but Sun Chi refused. Your little brother is rebellious. We can't let him live." Yi Shui nodded solemnly. "Since everyone is telling the truth, I have to say something too. I was the second one to arrive. I wanted to look for you, but Sun Chi refused. He even said that he liked to see his boss being tortured." Guyu looked at Sun Chi suspiciously as he listened to everyone's serious words. "Boss, I can testify that they're all framing me. It's all fake. You can ask Ao Jian if you don't believe me. He won't lie." Sun Chi immediately let out a scream, feeling that he was the scapegoat. "They're all right," Ao Jian said coldly. Hearing Ao Jian's answer, Sun Chi, who was the scapegoat, was dumbfounded. He felt that Ao Jian had changed, and he had become a liar. Moreover, when he lied, he was still so arrogant that I almost believed him. After some small talk, Guyu told Lu Chai and the others about the situation that he encountered in this world. When they heard that, Guyu said that the soul quality of the person he met had reached 4.8. Everyone's face showed an envious expression, although they had just started to learn about the equivalent trade under the Dark Lost Law. Relying on the information shared in the forum, everyone had also learned a lot about the equivalent trade. To be able to reach a soul quality of 4.8 was already the best batch of souls they had encountered at this stage. A single soul like this was equivalent to the harvest of several transactions that other people would obtain. After explaining the whole story, everyone expressed that they wanted to see what a creature with a soul quality of 4.8 looked like. Therefore, everyone followed Guyu to the extremely cold territory of this world. After opening the blood and chi barrier, everyone landed outside the ice house where the teenager was. As the door of the ice house was smashed by the demon soldiers, the appearance of Guyu and the others quickly alerted the teenager and his mother. The two immediately stumbled out of the ice house, knelt in front of Guyu, and began to kowtow and worship devoutly. Seeing this scene, a trace of helplessness appeared on Guyu's face. He then looked at the teenager and said, "I have brought your father's soul back. We have an equivalent trade. You don't have to do this." Halfway through his sentence, Guyu suddenly did not want to continue because the teenager was not listening at all. He was still kowtowing hard. He was like a merciless kowtowing robot. Meanwhile, Lu Chai and the others looked at the teenager curiously, trying to find something special about him. They wanted to know why his soul quality was so high. Since coming into contact with the equivalent trade until now, the players had learned a lot about it. Back when the Devil Clan dominated the Outworld, they once spread the equivalent trade system in the Outworld and harvested special souls from all over the world. This was also the reason why the method of building the wishing altar was still popular in many worlds at this stage. However, even back then, building the wishing altar did not necessarily mean that one could summon the members of the Devil Clan to fulfill their wishes. This was also clear to the players that only those special souls would be recognized by the wishing altar, and then the wish information would be sent to the members of the Devil Clan. However, until now, neither Lu Wu nor the players knew what was the reason for the birth of special souls and why they were special. Perhaps the Devil Clan knew, but this clan had long disappeared in the history of the Outworld. At this moment, looking at the teenager, their eyes were filled with doubts, trying to get an answer. However, no matter how they looked at the teenager, there was nothing special about him. He did not have 3 heads and 6 arms, a green face and fangs. He was completely an ordinary person. At this moment, Guyu took out the soul of the teenager's father from his personal space. He could not do what he wanted to do next, so he could only open his friend list and ask for help from his stupid officials. After receiving Guyu's message, Luwu immediately activated the remote control function of the artifact. At this moment, the soul in Guyu's hand floated up. With the burning of the soul power, it slowly solidified and finally formed a body with the help of the spiritual materials. After doing all this, Guyu still had one last wish that he had not helped the teenager to fulfill, which was to help the teenager become a grand sorcerer. After completing this task, the teenager would also die. His soul would enter the devil's contract and be compressed into a special soul power. Sighing, Guyu thought for a while and said, "I'll give you a week to get along with your parents. After a week, I'll help you become a grand sorcerer and take your soul away." Upon hearing this, the teenager raised his head, but there was no fear on his face. Instead, he nodded gratefully. In this world where life was as worthless as grass, the teenager thought it was worth it to exchange his life for so many wishes. Seeing this scene, Lu Chai and the others could not help but fall silent. As if to ease the atmosphere, Lu Chai took the lead and said, "Big Boss Gu, remember to reimburse the soul coins. I'll go back first. Recently, in a small world, there was a fool who wished for his country's football team to enter the World Cup. It's time for me to go back and play football. It's 2F* King hard. Boss, it's time for me to go back and write my story. I'm going to update another 5 million words tonight. Just hold on for a little longer. If I can't do it, I'll sacrifice all the readers in that world to the heavens. We'll all die together," Sun Chi said while gritting his teeth. Let's go. Contact me if there's anything." At this moment, everyone bid farewell to Guyu one by one. Then, they tore the space apart and left. Guyu's progress in this world had come to an end. However, from today onwards, there would no longer be any gods or demons that were above all things in this world. The era of the gods had ended, and the revival of the creatures in the mortal world had begun. In the future, everything that happened during this period would be known as the twilight of the gods by the later generations. Of course, as history progressed, there would be countless versions of the truth. However, the man who ended the era of the gods had a large number of believers in this world and became the only true god. Hundreds of years later, prosperous cities were built one after another. In the center of each city, there would be a statue of a man wearing a heavenly devil's cape, who was worshipped by the people. Chapter 799. It was like Lu Wu could control soul power, but he had to rely on artifacts to do so. In order to figure it out, Lu Wu began to busy himself with various experiments on special soul power. During the process, Mo Xiaoxin's eyes showed a hint of desire. However, Mo Xiaoxin was obviously playful and began to create all kinds of things. How terrifying! The cost of condensing the Dark Loss rule was obvious. It would be useless after a few uses, so Lu Wu could not afford it no matter how many soul coins he had. Super awesome fruit knife, supreme artifact. In the artifact, Lu Wu could use soul power to simulate the Dark Loss rule to control the special soul power. Regarding the law of darkness, I've already posted about it on the forum. Just as he expected, after the cigarette made of special soul power was used, the special soul power slowly flowed into the body. In fact, Lu Wu did not have much hope for the players to try it. Therefore, using ordinary soul power to condense the Dark Loss rule was not feasible. Therefore, he only had a glimmer of hope for the players to try it. It was fine in the artifact space, as it could be retrieved even if it collapsed. The only disadvantage of the special soul power was that it was more troublesome to obtain. It cannot be obtained by killing monsters like ordinary soul power. However, after brandishing it a few times, the weapon collapsed with a loud bang, unable to exist for long. While the players were discussing it, Eric, Tesla, and other players had already entered the artifact space and began to study the Dark Loss rule. However, there was a problem now. How to speed up the forging of the Dark Loss rule, or how to use the special soul power without the Dark Loss rule. Could it be that the Dark Loss rule forged with ordinary soul power could withstand the forging of a very small amount of special soul power and ensure that it would not collapse? Forum notification. Crayon Shinchan has been banned for 24 hours. Crayon_Shinchan. Dog official. I don't know anything except fighting. You have to work hard. Big meat shield smokes. This picture should suit your current mood. Lastly, the one who gave me my account is a pig. Laughing emoji. Filled with excitement, Xiaoxin chose to exit the artifact space and then swung the cigarette in a circle. Although the players were currently running around in different worlds, fulfilling other people's wishes and harvesting special soul power, Lu Wu had simulated it. This made Xiaoxin confused, as he could not understand what was going on. Evolving at high speed, I just finished a mission. I'm going to try, but I'm not confident. Tonghua's arrogant face. JPG. Therefore, it had a lot of limitations. Yi Shuier is the cutest. Haha, dog crayon. Why don't you continue to be arrogant? Come on, say something, criticize people, have fun. Laughing emoji. Content. Without the artifact, even if Lu Wu had a deep understanding of soul power, he would not be able to use it. After a series of tests, Lu Wu was stunned by the effects of the special soul power. Extortion. He had to extort billions of soul coins from the officials, or else he would refuse to reveal the formula. However, because he had not mastered the essence of creation, and creating items was not an easy task, the things he created seemed to have cool special effects. But the internal structure was often simple, and it could not be completely shaped. Soon it would collapse. That was, after using special soul power several times to control the pseudo-darkness laws. The pseudo-darkness laws would instantly collapse and wouldn't be able to exist for long. Therefore, with a playful attitude, he once again condensed the lost law of darkness and began to use this law to create items. After simulating a scene in the artifact space, Lu Wu started with the simplest physical skills, followed by spells, then curses and other abilities. At this time, in the artifact space, countless players were conducting experiments in full swing. After noting down the weapon's information, Xiaoxin chuckled, grabbed the weapon, and waved it in the artifact space. But this time, what surprised him was that the smoke he was waiting for didn't dissipate. It was still solid. Take the civilizations that developed technology as an example. There were many big shots in the scientific research among these forces. If they could easily research the creation method of the lost law, they would have succeeded a long time ago. However, he still failed. Invincible_loneliness. I don't know anything about this. I only know how to fight and kill. Goodbye. Sea King Fist Salute. JPG. Suddenly, a dazzling golden light bloomed in the artifact space, attracting the attention of many players. At this moment, Xiaoxin knew that he had succeeded. His guess was right. The moment the thought appeared, Xiaoxin went crazy. In the subsequent attempts, he encountered the same bottleneck as Lu Wu. The lost law of darkness forged with ordinary soul power was not only suitable for simulation, but could also withstand the use of a very small amount of special soul power to forge items. For example, small items such as cigarettes. From information obtained at this stage, Lu Wu knew that the Devil Clan did not use spiritual power during battles. Instead, they completely relied on special soul power to drive their spells. After all, there were a group of the top scientists in the 3 realms among the players. The reason was simple. If it could be easily researched, the ultimate law would have been widespread. Invincible meat shield armor, sky-piercing spear, infinite space, traversing speed shoes. Lu Wu was curious about the power of spells that were released with special soul power. First, he had to experiment on the spells, which was also the most important step. Watermelon_Taro. I caught the evidence of the dog officials slacking off. Screenshot as proof. Laughing emoji. Lu Wu immediately opened a post in the forum. After trying dozens of tools, Xiaoxin suddenly chuckled and condensed a cigarette. He held it in his mouth with a dispirited look on his face. In the experiment, he first created a weapon made of special soul power. Xiaoxin was not depressed. After all, he was already mentally prepared. Therefore, it was not feasible to rely on quantity to achieve qualitative changes. Lu Wu was even more shocked by the next test. At this moment, Mo Xiaoxin was nervous, afraid that he would be kicked out of the artifact space by the dog officials behind scenes. He had always been ahead of all the players when it came to seeking death. At this moment, a ridiculous scene suddenly appeared in Mo Xiaoxin's mind. The real Dark Lost Law had to be forged with special soul power. It was the same for special soul power. To control special soul power, one must have the Dark Lost Law. Otherwise, special soul power could not be used. Since ordinary soul power could create items, so could special soul power. That was what Mo Xiaoxin thought. He simply could not afford to wait. The artifact did not have the ability to compress soul power. It was not as simple as condensing soul power, but changing the internal arrangement of soul power to make it into a new substance. As the players collected special soul power in various worlds, Lu also began to study the use of special soul power. Weapon Forger. Mo Xiaoxin, to really forge a Dark Lost Law, it would consume 100 trillion special soul power. Lu Wu was only trying to use part of the special soul power. After posing, he held a cigarette and waited for it to dissipate. However, Mo Xiaoxin was just playing around, so he did not take it seriously. A big wolf dog. I'm going crazy. I want to destroy the world now. I like to ask everyone who knows how to write novels. Kuki whaling. JPG. To solve this problem, part of the artifact space was temporarily opened up in the forum. Everyone could try and simulate it internally. Lu Wu also began to try to compress ordinary soul power and turn it into special soul power. The same spell was used, but the consumption of special soul power was reduced by more than 100 times. However, its power was increased by more than 100 times. However, the simulated Dark Lost Law in the artifact space could not be brought out of the outside world. It was just a fake thing. After many failed attempts, Lu Wu was really troubled. After thinking for a while, he decided to make a post in the forum to see what the players could come up with. Lu Wu began to try again and again, trying to find a shortcut to forge the Dark Lost Law. In terms of cultivation, the special soul power provided a cultivation speed that was more than 100 times faster than ordinary soul power. Compared to spiritual energy, it was more than 10,000 times faster. At this stage, the only problem he had to face was that he could not use the special soul power in the outside world because there was no control of the Dark Lost Law. However, since this supreme law could help the Devil Clan reach the top of the food chain in the extraterrestrial world, it must have its own advantages. In this regard, after reading the manual of the Dark Lost Law, he used the soul power in the artifact space to simulate a pseudo-Dark Lost Law, Tai, according to Lu Wu's instructions. Using the artifact space to simulate the Dark Lost Law, Lu Wu got busy. For example, Eric, Tesla, and the others. Those who could be brought to the extraterrestrial world were all outstanding players, so he could totally brainstorm. Every slash of the sword was overflowing with light. It was really cool. Weapon details. 1/99999, an artifact you deserve to have for chopping melons and vegetables. However, the quality of ordinary soul power could not be compared to the special soul power. The pseudo-Dark Lost Law forged in the simulation would collapse after a few uses, and the internal soul power would be lost. If *King succeeded? Regarding the use of special soul power, let's brainstorm. Opie, give me a ton of money, official. At this time, Mo Xiaoxin was also trying to forge the Dark Lost Law like everyone else. Especially the infinite space god speed shoes, he really wanted it. It was too convenient for him to escape. In Mo Xiaoxin's opinion, this kind of Dark Lost Law obviously could not be used. Otherwise, it would collapse after a few spells. The wasted soul power would make one's scalp tingle, and the stingy dog officials would probably go crazy. To verify if it was really possible, Mo Xiaoxin lit up the cigarette. Before the battle, all the players dispiritedly smoked to replenish their special soul power, one cigarette after another. As for the consumption of the special soul power, Lu Wu did not have to worry about it as soon as the artifact simulation ended. If a God Realm creature relied entirely on the special soul power during the battle, it would be extremely easy for him to fight someone of a higher level. The cosplay meat shield dispiritedly smoked. Some of the players were seriously trying to forge the Dark Lost Law, while some of the idiotic players were simulating the control of the special soul power to cast spells. They were having a lot of fun. This undoubtedly gave Lu Wu a headache, which meant that the special soul power that he had collected could not be used at all. President of the Demolition Officers. I'm playing against the Korean team tonight. I'm already in the arena. Help me luck. If I lose, I'll kill my pig teammates on livestream. P.S. Today, China will host the first match of the 2020 Olympic Games qualifier in Tokyo against the Korean team. The match has already begun. What kind of concept was this? Lu Wu could only use 2 words to describe the power of the ultimate law. There were many intelligent races in the extraterrestrial world, and there were countless who were smarter than humans. However, if he used ordinary soul power to condense the Dark Lost Law in the outside world, it would definitely be a huge loss if it collapsed after a few uses. After all, it was 100 trillion. In an instant, the special soul power in his body surged and was released as he punched forward. After dozens of failures, Mo Xiaoxin gradually gave up, feeling that he did not have the talent in this aspect. As he learned more about the effects of the special soul power, Lu Wu's desire for the Dark Lost Law grew. With the current speed of the players collecting the special soul power, it would probably take an era, and it might not even be enough. Chapter 800. Could it be that there was something wrong with the Dark Rule Libra? This was a Xinxiao world that focused on cultivation and growth. Although most of the creatures here did not have a high cultivation level, they had great potential for growth. The biggest goal of many immortal cultivators was to break through the void and leave this world, heading to the legendary immortal world. With disbelief, they clicked on the video attachment in the post. Some missions could take hundreds of years of hard work. Realizing the difficulty of the mission, Hui thought of asking the players for help. That's right. If you know the price, tell us your wish. Let's not waste time. Hui nodded. This clearly showed the difficulty of this mission. However, at this stage, they could only make small items. They could not make large special soul power items. After all, there was no real Dark Rule. As they waited, the powerhouses present felt a little uneasy. Special soul power shop. This world has given birth to a Devil Lord. He is too strong. If he continues to wreak havoc, we will not be spared. We are willing to use our souls in exchange for the future stability of our sect and people. We hope you can help us get rid of the Devil Lord, said the man in the lead respectfully. After some testing, Mo Xiaoxin realized that as long as the special soul power consumed was less than 10 small items, they could be stabilized after being created. The pseudo-dark rule generated by the artifact in the air was completely bearable. Watch the video for details. As an evil force, the meat shield was indeed decadent and smoking. Time passed. Just when everyone thought that the wish had failed, the altar suddenly emitted a red light, and a figure appeared. Seeing the child's cultivation level, Hui was shocked. This was because, apart from a small number of ordinary souls, nearly a third of them had very high quality, with the average being around 3. Character's superpower, Tomb of the God, inherited an ancient tomb of the gods that was formed at the beginning of the Lingtian world. Hui suspected that he would be dead the moment he made a move. The players were crazily complaining about the idiotic mission that they had received and how unbearable it was. Stupid official, come in quickly and see what I have found. Creator, Crayon Shin-chan hearing this. The man gritted his teeth and said, but before that, he planned to investigate the origins of this demon lord. President of the Demolition Officers. I've already sacrificed all of my useless teammates from the soccer team to the heavens. I'm preparing to build a new team. The only problem now is that they want me to go to jail. They say that murder is against the law. I'm curious. Goes question face. JPG. The powerhouses that he had met were basically at the Ghost King realm. As for the Ghost Emperor realm, he had not met one yet. For this discovery, Mo Xiaoxin immediately posted it on the forum and announced it. Thinking of this, Hui secretly activated his analysis ability and was ready to probe the target's strength. Experimental video attached. However, Forging the true lost laws would probably take an epoch. They would have to wait for sufficient resources, like the Spirit King, before they could forge. This was unrealistic for them after all, as time was of the essence. Under such circumstances, the players' enthusiasm for the wishing quest had increased. Luwu was looking forward to the players' next performance. "Tell me your wish." Hui spoke again. Soon, he found the target, the Demon Lord, who was sleeping in the blood pool in the main hall. As a #1 theorist in this forum, I tirelessly conducted a 24-hour special soul power experiment in order to complete the stupid official's quest. In the end, my hard work paid off, and I succeeded with my extraordinary talent. 3 days ago, Mount of Despair in the Lingtian world. Knowing that his opponent might be difficult to deal with, Hui did not choose to expose himself. Instead, he sneaked into the city. Players could use these small items to absorb the special soul power into their bodies. It could be used for cultivation or to cast spells. A collective wish? Hui appeared here and looked at the wish message. His face showed a hint of confusion. It was a 3-year-old child floating in the blood pool. He squinted his eyes and held something that looked like a pacifier in his mouth. He did not look threatening at all. A 3-year-old middle-stage ghost emperor? What kind of F*** potential was this? It was comparable to the players. Buy out for me. Official, I didn't expect the dark rule condensed by ordinary soul power to be useful. Although it is a small item, at least it can use the special soul power. Not bad. Tip to the original poster. 10 million soul coins. The person wore a black cloak and carried a dark red coffin on his back. He looked serious. That was a more brutal battlefield. It was not as beautiful as they had imagined. Back when they played Battle Royale, only the top group of players could reach the Ghost Emperor realm in 3 years. Most of them were still in the Ghost King and Ghost General realm. With his strength of the Divine realm, it was natural that he would not be discovered as he moved stealthily. Therefore, he entered the Demon Lord Hall with ease, which was also the area where his assassination target was located. What happened next shocked them. Crayon Shinchan had really thought of a way to use the special soul power. Without the help of the gods behind the altar, they knew that they would definitely die. Not only would they not be able to escape the disaster, but their sects and clansmen would also suffer. Character introduction: the son of luck of this world. Protected by all the rules of the world, he has unlimited growth potential. He has cultivated to the middle stage of the Ghost Emperor realm at the age of 3. He has unlimited potential. However, at this moment, Hui suddenly posted on the forum asking for help, which attracted the attention of many players. Dark Pigeon, son of the dimension. How could it be played like this? At this moment, almost 1/10 of the powerhouses of this world had gathered on Despair Peak. A large wolf dog. I'm even worse off. I'm still in the middle of my first transaction. I can't even count how many words I've written. I haven't updated for 3 days. I'm ready to let all the readers of this world die with me. They don't know how to appreciate it. It's the fault of this world, not me. Surprise clansmen kneel and wipe tears. JPG, I'm in despair. I can't play anymore. What kind of idiotic mission did I accept? I'm isolated. Because the problem of the special soul power had been solved, the special soul power in the hands of the players could finally be used. Luwu also noticed this post. When he clicked on it and read the content, he was stunned. Although the special soul power that could be absorbed into the body after each use of the condensed cigarette was extremely small, not even enough to perform a spell, a few more would be enough. They knelt on the ground and built an altar according to an ancient ritual. Now, they collectively prayed to the god on the other side of the altar, Watermelon_Taro, Dog Crayon, you gotta buy luck. You're awesome. 2 days later, Hui arrived at the demonic Sky City, which was the main city where the Devil Lord resided, according to the information provided by the petitioners. Yes, you didn't hear it wrong. I got the method to use the special soul power. From entering the hall to finding the target, the whole process was too easy. It was so easy that Hui couldn't believe it. In order to verify this, Mo Xiaoxin entered the artifact space again. The function of the special soul power shop was to convert the special soul power in the hands of the players. Luwu would take 10% of the processing fee. Peppa_Boar, I'm drunk. Let me tell you something strange. I just received a wish mission in a small world. It asked me to assassinate someone. But the bastard who made the wish refused to use his own soul as a bargaining chip. He said he would give me 80 million US dollars. The target was Tai Lang Pu. What use do I have for US dollars? Go underscore question underscore mark. JPG. During the weighing, who he found it unbelievable that the side with a soul quality of almost 300 was slowly rising. Content. Who he did not waste any time. An equivalent exchange mark appeared on his forehead, and he began to weigh. After looking at the analysis of the petitioners around him, who he was shocked again. It's you guys who are praying? Do you know the price? Not long after Mo Xiaoxin solved the problem and published the post, Lu Wu opened a new function in the shop. Character personality. Do as you please this time, he began to record the process of his attempt. The wish missions that he complained about would also be included in the complete collection of idiotic missions to warn all players that not every mission could be accepted. There were 32 items such as candy, chocolate, fruits, cigarettes, drinks, and so on. Are you the god behind the altar? A man in the Ghost King realm stepped forward and asked respectfully. After discovering that the Dark Rule, which was condensed from ordinary soul power in the artifact space, could withstand a small amount of items condensed from special soul power, Mo Xiaoxi knew that he had unintentionally solved a problem that even the stupid officials were troubled by. Subsequently, he tried all the small items one by one, such as candy, chocolate, and so on. However, he was careful not to show his face. After all, he knew his own identity. Invincible underscore loneliness. The dog Crayon has shown what it means to be courting death. You give him an inch, and he wants a foot. I suggest that the stupid officials ban him forever, deprive him of his soul coins and account. Exile his soul in the artifact space for 100 eras. Laughing emoji. However, at this moment, this was the only hope that everyone had. In Mo Xiaoxin's opinion, this was also a disguised solution to the problem of not being able to use special soul power without the real Dark Rule. After doing all this, Lu Wu felt that the players had a new opportunity to develop. We already know the price. We need souls as sacrifices to complete the mission. Now, as long as a player bought such items in the shop, the pseudo-Dark Rule in the artifact space will be activated to help the player create special soul power items. However, what the cultivators in this world did not know was that the so-called immortal world was just an extraterrestrial world. This was the first time that he had encountered a group prayer incident. As he thought about this, his interest was piqued. He immediately said in a deep voice, the forum chat went from praising the dog Crayon at the beginning to a thread of ridicule. Although he was shocked by the growth potential of the Devil Lord, what puzzled who he was that the little brat looked like he could be killed easily. How could he be worth 300 special soul power points? At this moment, the forum was also discussing the usage of special soul power. Mo Xiaoxin's post immediately attracted the attention of many players. However, Mo Xiaoxin also found that the cigarette was the most effective. It could stabilize the consumption of special soul power at the maximum limit of 10. To put it nicely, it was used as a reserve for forging with the real Dark Rule. Along the way, what surprised he was that the creatures in this world generally did not have high combat power. Crayon Shinchan replied, to give me money, official, catch the dog official, 10 million is not enough. At least 5 billion soul coins. Hurry up and pay. Big Meat Shield Smoke. JPG, Mad Scientist, awesome, the dog Crayon finally did something good. Tip, 0.0001 soul coins. As this ritual was too ancient, no one knew exactly how long it could be traced back. Therefore, they did not know whether it would succeed or not. Although the fundamental problem was not solved in the video, at least they found a way to use special soul power. Hui did a simple calculation. If this wish was fulfilled, he could exchange for about 30 cigarettes of Big Meat Shield. Chapter 801. After observing the little devil Master Dark Pigeon for a while, he was ready to make his move. No matter what, he would know once he tried. Thinking of this, he waved his hand, and a stream of corpse energy entangled the dark pigeon. At this moment, the sleeping dark pigeon suddenly opened its eyes. It raised its hand and slapped in the direction of the corpse energy. The blood pool beneath, it was immediately rolled up and welcomed the corpse energy. Chi! The sound of melting was heard. The blood pool and the corpse energy were quickly corroded upon contact, but the corpse energy could not penetrate the blood pool and attack the dark pigeon in a short time. At this moment, the dark pigeon levitated like a startled rabbit. Its sharp eyes began to scan the surroundings, trying to find the attacker. However, with its ability, how could it find who was far more powerful than it? Realizing that something was wrong, the dark pigeon immediately wanted to escape. "Where are you going?" At this moment, patted the corpse soul bag. Hitorigami's figure suddenly appeared behind the dark pigeon. Its blood-red palm suddenly grabbed the top of its skull. Feeling the pressure coming from behind, the dark pigeon's face instantly turned pale. It tried to escape, but found that it was locked in place by the pressure coming from behind. It could not break free at all. Seeing this scene, he could not help but laugh. He did not expect to get 300 special soul points so easily. It was really unexpected. Originally, he thought that the plot would be very complicated and he might have to call for help. However, at this moment, something unexpected happened. Lines of law strings appeared out of thin air and wrapped around the surface of Hitorigami's zombie spirit, binding it to the ground and making it unable to break free. Seeing this, he suddenly remembered that this guy was the son of Luck. So, he quickly summoned more than 30 zombie spirits and locked them on the dark pigeon again. He was ready to kill it in one go to avoid any accidents. However, at this moment, the dark pigeon's figure floated up, broke through the dome of the hall, and began to run for its life. At this moment, it had already realized that it was no match for the assassin. It could not even fight against one of the more than 30 zombie spirits that it had just summoned. So, it chose to run without hesitation. However, how could he let it do as it wished? His figure flashed, and he chased after it. In the blink of an eye, he stood in front of the dark pigeon. "Why do you want to kill me?" Looking at who was carrying the coffin on his back, the little pigeon asked in a flustered and exasperated manner. "I don't need a reason to kill you. I just don't like you," he said indifferently. He raised his hand, and a zombie soul formation appeared, trapping the little pigeon inside. "You forced my hand." Little dark pigeon, who was wearing a doo-doo, glared at Then, it reached into its doo-doo and took out a small golden shovel. Seeing this shovel, Hui's heart skipped a beat, because he felt an extremely strong and familiar aura from the shovel. He immediately activated his analysis ability. God-breaking spade, divine item. Item details, it was born from the Holy Spirit force at the beginning of the world. It has the ability to break spells and seals. Looking at the content of the analysis, he came to a realization. It turned out to be the Holy Spirit energy. It was the same source of energy that the dog official had used to create the 3 realms. At that moment, he had an idea about the golden shovel. Wasn't this custom-made for me? Now that he had everything, he just lacked a shovel to break the seal. Looking at Hui's greedy eyes, the little pigeon pointed at him angrily. "Just you wait, you're dead." After saying that, the little pigeon clenched its fists and shouted to the sky, "Tomb of God." As soon as he finished speaking, an unbelievable scene unfolded before Hui's eyes. A new domain was rapidly forming inside the zombie energy formation. It kept expanding outwards, crushing the zombie energy formation that he had set up. The divine aura was faintly discernible, and tombstones appeared in the new domain. From these tombstones, Hui felt a strong aura. Each tombstone had a power that was no weaker than that of the gods. Looking around, there were hundreds of tombstones like this. At that moment, the little pigeon entered the domain of the tomb of God. It looked around, then lifted the golden shovel and shoveled at one of the tombstones while shouting, "Dad, come out, your son is being bullied. You old fart, come out now." Shoveling after shoveling, Hui was stunned. The tombstone was shoveled open, revealing a coffin inside. Realizing that something unexpected was going to happen, Hui immediately manipulated the zombie spirit to break the domain of the tomb of God. But at that moment, the coffin shattered, and a dignified man wearing a purple dragon robe emerged. "Dad, don't sleep. Your son is going to die." The little dark pigeon shouted nervously at the man in the purple robe who was still in a deep sleep. As if he heard the cry of the little pigeon, the dignified man slowly opened his eyes. He first looked at the little pigeon, then at His eyes became sharp at that moment. Then his figure suddenly walked out of the domain of the tomb of God and pounced at "You're courting death." Hui did not hesitate and decisively summoned Yuanchu's zombie spirit to confront him. Two fists and two palms collided in the air. Accompanied by the vibration of space, the two figures fought together. Yuanchu's zombie spirit had now reached the divine state, and the little pigeon's father was also in the divine state. Their strength was actually on par. After fighting for a while, Hui was ready to summon a few more zombie spirits to help Yuanchu kill the pigeon's father. However, at that moment, the pigeon's father suddenly retreated into the domain of the tomb of God. Then, he turned to look at the little pigeon with a serious face and said, "Hurry up and dig up your grandpa. I'm no match for him." The little pigeon heard this and looked disgusted. Then it spat on its left and right hands, raised the golden shovel, and smashed it on the next tombstone. "Grandpa, you old fart, hurry up and come out. Your son and grandson are being bullied. How can you still sleep?" While shouting, the little pigeon shoveled fiercely and dug up the grandpa's tombstone in no time. As the coffin shattered, the figure of a white-haired old man appeared inside. Seeing this scene, Hui was dumbfounded. How could it be like this? Could it be that the entire tomb of God's domain buried the 18 generations of this kid's ancestors? Bah, probably hundreds of generations. While Hui was thinking about it, the white-haired old man and the man in the purple robe flew out of the domain of the tomb of God at the same time and flew toward him. They looked like they were going to fight to the death with him. Seeing this, Hui's face turned cold. He controlled the rest of the 30-odd zombie spirits that were besieging the tomb of God's domain to confront them. These 30-odd zombie spirits all had the strength of the divine state, and the little pigeon's father and grandfather were only in the divine state. After fighting for a while, they retreated into the domain of the tomb of God's domain in embarrassment. Then they turned to look at the little pigeon and shouted in unison, "Little bastard, get your great-grandpa out to hold the fort." Seeing this scene, the little pigeon didn't talk nonsense. After spitting on both hands, it raised the golden shovel and went to the next tombstone. Before the shovel fell, it shouted, "Let's go, let's go. Great-grandpa, you old fart. Your son, grandson, and great-grandson are all being bullied, and you can still sleep. Don't you have a conscience?" Following a series of clanging sounds, the tombstone cracked open, revealing a blackened skeleton inside. There was still a soul fire burning inside. Seeing this scene, Hui was too tired to complain. In the field of tomb digging, he had never met a worthy opponent, and he had never been convinced by anyone. But today he had learned something new. Chapter 802. Hui had seen ruthless people before, but he had never seen someone as ruthless as Xiange. He thought that he was ruthless enough. He often dug up people's ancestral graves and manipulated their ancestors to beat up their descendants. He was extremely wicked. However, Xiange had really opened his eyes. He actually dug up his own ancestors to fight him. How cruel! Up until now, Hui's zombie army of 500 had been sent out. However, to his despair, Xiange had also dug up more than 100 ancestors. The oldest one had already reached the peak of the ancient god realm. Hui even suspected that if the fight continued, this bastard would really dig out all his ancestors. Maybe he could even dig out the super antiques of the great emperor realm to support him. Hui had been full of confidence at the beginning, but now he was doubting his life. He could not fight anymore. He thought that with the zombie army in his hands, he could be considered as the number one among the players besides the dog officials. He thought that he would not meet any opponents in other small worlds. However, reality slapped him hard in the face today. As an intruder, he had to face the son of luck. Even Hui could not do anything about the Xiange that dug up his ancestors. In terms of combat power, the Xiange that dug up his ancestors was obviously stronger than him. He did not even need to refine them. He could just dig them up and use them. Furthermore, the ancestors that were dug out were not only stronger than the previous generation, but there were also more of them. This was a son of luck. He was protected by the world and the ancestors. In this world, he was practically invincible. No wonder all the experts in this world could not subdue him. He suspected that at this rate, the dog officials would have to personally deal with the last ancestor. Otherwise, all the players might not be able to beat him. Perhaps even the dog officials might not be able to beat him. Because as the Xian continued to dig, the combat power of the ancestors increased infinitely. He was also confused at the moment. Anyway, he could not beat him now. Watching the zombie warriors explode one by one, turning into zombie energy and returning to the zombie energy bag, he had no more ideas. He was ready to retreat. You want to escape? Have you asked my ancestors? At this time, the Xian began to shout arrogantly, Ancestors, you can't let him go. Ancestors, you can't let him go. He wants to kill me. Think about it carefully. If I die, your bloodline will be severed. Imagine the pain of having no descendants. Hearing the cry of the little pigeon, the attacks of the ancestors of generations suddenly became more ferocious. He burst into tears. You bastard brat. I was already wicked enough when I used other people's ancestors to threaten my opponents. But you're even worse, directly threatening your own ancestors. He couldn't afford to offend them. Society. Thinking of this, he decisively slipped away. He recalled his zombie spirit and started running. The infuriated little pigeon immediately roared again. Suddenly, the elders that had been dug out began to chase after he. The pursuit and interception of the entire world began. During this period, he was almost killed several times. His mental state was on the verge of exploding. He had no choice but to post this message on the forum in hopes of getting help from the players. I'm in despair. I can't play anymore. What kind of idiotic mission did I accept? I'm going into isolation. Author, Taoist Corpse Hunter content. These few days I thought that I had gotten a wish mission that was easy to complete and had a great reward. However, when I tried it, I realized how *TTY this mission was. Wiping tears. JPG in amazement. The opponent was too scary. As one of the most popular players, his post attracted the attention of a large number of players. Crayon_Shinchan. After reading your post, I'm dying of laughter. Demon King, you've met your match. Let me give you a suggestion. If he dug out his own ancestors, you should dig out his ancestors too. Let's have a dark pigeon ancestor battle. Laughing emoji. Taoist Corpse Hunter replied to Crayon_Shinchan. I've thought about it, but I can't. His family's ancestral grave is a territory. Only he can dig it out. It would take me a long time to break it open. This is the first time I've seen a cheat that carries an ancestral grave with him. See King's angry face. JPG, watermelon_Turo. Haha. A super cheat that carries an ancestral grave with him. Nothing is too strange in the outside world. I thought that my horizons had been broadened and I would be able to remain calm in the face of any cheats. I didn't expect there to be such a despicable cheat. Ha ha ha. Laughing emoji. A_large_wolf dog. You can't beat him? Dig out his ancestral grave? What kind of godly operation is this? This plot is not bad. I'm going to write a novel with this. Let's hope it succeeds this time. Chocho's expectant face. JPG, give me _overflow, official. I've just investigated the world you're in. Let me explain to you. The specific reason is that every generation of Dark Pigeon's ancestors are the strongest in that world. The accumulation of luck in this generation of Dark Pigeon has reached its peak. Therefore, he has become the one and only son of luck in this world. Not only is he protected by the luck of the world, but none of his ancestors have died. The strongest one has already broken through the Emperor Realm and reached the Void Realm. As the ancestor of Dark Pigeon, this person has made a name for himself in the outside world. You've kicked an iron plate. Laughing emoji. Taoist Corpse Hunter replied to give me _overflow, official, that's 300 special soul points. Dog official, save me. Big Meat Shield Decadent Smoke. JPG, give me _overflow, official. I wanted to come and help, but after seeing the picture you posted, I lost interest. See King's disgusted face. JPG. Hui's encounter sparked a discussion among the players in the forum. It was not that the players thought that Hui's opponent was too scary. After all, they had encountered opponents at the Void Realm before. For example, when they fought against the alien army, the alien queen's strength had reached the Void Realm. At the moment, the hottest topic among the players was Hui's opponent's wolf destruction cheat. The players could not help but laugh. The Gravedigger had met someone even more ruthless than him, someone who dug his own ancestral grave. However, many players in the forum expressed their desire to help him overcome this difficulty. Some of them had even formed a team. Hui was looking forward to it. Even if he could not defeat his opponent, he did not believe that with the player's unlimited resurrection ability, they could not handle that 3-year-old brat. The war between the Gravedigger and the Gravedigger had begun. This was destined to be a long war. Both sides had many trump cards. One side had an ancestor cheat, while the other side had an unlimited resurrection cheat. One side was fighting on their home ground with luck protecting them, while the other side had soul coins as support. They had never been afraid of a protracted war. With the arrival of the players' army, the chaos in this world became even more chaotic. The so-called powerhouses of this world were merely decorations in front of the sun of luck, Xiangu, and the players. They had no influence and could not influence the outcome of the war. They would be the main characters in this war. Just as the players were about to join forces to help Hui beat up the 3-year-old brat, Xiangu, for the sake of their reputation, Lu Wu, who was in the glittering world's heavenly demons encampment, met a visitor. At this moment, outside the heavenly demons encampment, an extremely large interstellar fleet appeared out of thin air. Lu Wu, who sensed the commotion, walked out of the encampment. He raised his head and saw a blue beam of light from the largest flagship. Then, a figure descended along the blue beam of light and landed in front of him. This person's height was no different from an ordinary person's, but the surface of his body was covered with a layer of silver metal. Under the blue beam of light, dots of starlight were refracted. He looked very futuristic and sci-fi. "Hello, intruder." At this moment, the silver metal man suddenly looked at Lu Wu and smiled. Hearing this, Lu Wu already knew who this person was. He immediately asked with a smile, "What's wrong with you?" He smiled and asked, "Zero." Chapter 803. By the way, what's the ultimate rule in your hand? That was the decision he made when the first self-thinking question appeared in his mind. P.S. For this foreshadowing, please refer to Chapter 772. When Lu Wu and the players destroyed the base of the Heavenly Armament Legion, the mastermind who chose to self-destruct bid farewell to the highest authority, Zero. Losing more benefits in order to get compensation was too emotional in Zero's opinion. Therefore, Zero thought it would be beneficial for both parties to let Lu Wu reveal his secret. Hearing Lu Wu say his name, Ling said with an indifferent expression, "You're right." Then, after searching through Lu Wu's facial expression and the information about the Heavenly Demon Army, a trace of surprise flashed in Zero's eyes. First, you have to compensate 10 times the loss. Second, you and your Heavenly Demon Army will be annihilated. I heard that you have an ultimate rule, Lu Wu asked curiously. At that moment, he suddenly realized that Lu Wu seemed to have something he wanted. What are you talking about? The way they evolved was also the same, which was to constantly modify their bodies and upgrade themselves. From Life 1, Zero to a higher level, step by step. Looking at Zero leaving, Lu Wu suddenly said, however, Zero was different. Zero's development was purely technological. Because he had no soul, he could not cultivate, unless that person had the ability to control the soul source soul power at will. That's possible, but you have to tell me what you're willing to pay in exchange. Whether it was the Devil Clan, the Insect Clan, or even the current strongest force, the Holy Spirit Clan, they all cultivated the growth system. It was just that they adopted different methods. In Zero's opinion, there was nothing wrong with what he said. As long as Lu Wu was willing to reveal part of his secret, he would be able to confirm that Lu Wu had the ability to fight against him. Then, he would not attack Lu Wu and the Heavenly Demon Army. Looking at the soul power fog, data kept flashing in front of Zero's eyes. The internal database was activated. In his experiments and self-knowledge, Zero finally realized one thing. What he lacked was the least scarce thing in the outer realm, but it was the most important thing: soul origin. Even though the Holy Spirit King rejected him, he never gave up. Just as Luwu had said, this was a world of cultivators. However, once Zero's soul casting was completed, he would be unable to escape after leaving a soul imprint in the artifact. Luwu was fearless. At first, Luwu was confused about the galactic fleet that appeared in the sky and the metallic men that appeared in front of him. He did not know the reason for their visit. The development of technology was too extreme. Although it had the characteristics of rapid development and maximization of battle efficiency, it was also very limited in this world created by cultivators. Of course, this was just Zero's analysis. Luwu did not think so. In his rational state, he would only weigh the pros and cons. He wouldn't be dominated by fear, even if his enemies were from the Holy Spirit tribe. Yes, I'm still evolving. I'm still far from the finish line. Even though he was shocked, under his absolute rationality, his emotions did not affect his judgment and thinking at all. Because in the silver eyes, he read the message. The transaction was successful. You can create a soul for me? Zero's voice was calm, but her silver eyes kept flashing. That's right. Not only do I have the confidence to defend against your attack, I even have the confidence to destroy your heaven armament core. Yes, not only can I defend against your attack, but I can also destroy your heavenly armament legion. Do you believe me? When he heard this, Zero's expression was still very calm. The strongest power belonged to cultivators. Without a soul, they did not even have the chance to come into contact with the ultimate rules. They could not even bear the ordinary rules with their pure metal bodies. I guess you haven't found the path to immortality. Am I right? Luwu said with a smile. Luwu asked curiously, what is it? However, to break through this world, one would need great power. In order to obtain great power, one must have a soul that could bear the power. Although there were many powerhouses who could possess and erase other people's souls, controlling soul power and erasing souls were two completely different concepts. Can you tell me what your secret is? If I believe that your secret can do this, I will choose to leave. Zero's words sounded cowardly, but he said it in a state of absolute rationality. He knew that only with a soul could he have unlimited possibilities. Without a soul, he would be stuck in the same place if he continued to evolve. He would never achieve immortality. Then, the reason why he chose to evolve in the first place would be meaningless. How do you know about me? Why are you looking for me? If I'm not mistaken, the person that the Holy Spirit clan has been looking for recently is you. Hearing this, Zero stopped moving and landed in front of Luwu, waiting for him to continue. As for what it was, Zero had sought help from the Holy Spirit King, the strongest and omnipotent being in the outer realm. He was willing to provide a huge amount of resources as a bargaining chip. Luwu realized that he was up to no good when he thought about how he led the players to raid the Holy Spirit King's hometown for mechanical energy. Tell me about it, but I won't agree, Luwu said nonchalantly. Revenge? Luwu asked curiously. You came here just to threaten me? Hearing this, a string of data flashed in front of Zero's eyes. He analyzed Luwu's words and came up with a probability, as well as speculations about the unknown situations that might occur. Looking at Luwu, who shook his head in rejection, a string of data flashed in front of Zero's eyes again. This time, he did not speak. He levitated and headed toward the main ship. This was no doubt a vicious cycle. This was also the reason why Zero sought out the Holy Spirit King in the first place, hoping to get help. If Luwu really had that kind of ability, Zero would naturally be willing to exchange the ultimate law in his hands. However, he did not believe that Zero would dare to attack him here. Although Ike's ability was not as powerful as Zero's, he was still a living being. Although he didn't know where Zero got the information about him, he wasn't afraid at all. Therefore, this ultimate law was only a bargaining chip in his hands. It was of little value to him. Just like what Luwu had said before, he would not agree to any conditions. Therefore, Luwu was very calm. Even though he couldn't challenge the extreme peak without a soul, he didn't give up. Instead, he relied on scheming and lying low to finally kill a powerhouse who had just succeeded in challenging the extreme peak, seizing the extreme law in his body that hadn't been completely integrated yet. The overlord of the outer realm who used pure technology to build a huge technological empire in the outer realm, the Celestial Machinery Legion, was Zero. Although Zero was shocked to hear Luwu say that he could give him a soul, after analyzing the data, he believed that the credibility rate was only 5,124%. In fact, Luwu had far underestimated Zero's desire for a soul. At his level, he had already discovered the flaws in his path of evolution. He had tried many ways to achieve this, but to no avail. Since he had chosen this path, he would not stop until he achieved immortality. No matter how much you evolve, you will never reach the end. This is because the creator of this firmament world was a cultivator. He did not walk the path of technology. Perhaps you can become very strong by jumping out of this world, but in this world created by deceiving cultivators, the soul is the foundation. You lack the most important thing that all extraterrestrial creatures have. This was because Zero reminded him of Ike, the strongest NPC in the Naraka server. Yes, but I can give you two choices, Zero said with a smile. Soul. Luwu laughed after he uttered the word. Yes. Zero did not deny this. Unless he could break through this firmament world, the development of technology would inevitably be bound by all the rules of the extraterrestrial world, and he would not be able to achieve endless growth. The so-called revenge was a very emotional thing. In Zero's eyes, he only had to weigh the pros and cons, seal the heavens. Seeing Zero agree so decisively, Luwu was also very surprised. Of course, I have enough to buy information about you, Luwu said nonchalantly. He then asked, Zero, how about we discuss a deal? I think I have something that you need. Whatever you want, I can give it to you, Zero said without hesitation. Thinking of this, Zero raised his head and said, What is the meaning of living? There is no end without a soul. This is my choice. Zero gave his answer with a smile. However, the Holy Spirit King rejected him, not even telling him if it was possible. Similarly, if Luwu revealed part of his secret information, he could also reduce the losses caused by the war. After confirming that Zero had the ultimate rule, Luwu smiled happily. Then he waved his hand, and a soul power mist appeared in his hand and began to circle around his finger. If Luwu could give him a path to immortality, all the benefits would be nothing compared to it. Therefore, Zero did not believe Luwu because the probability was too low. This was the Holy Spirit clan's territory. No matter how strong Zero's celestial armament army was, they would not dare to go against the Holy Spirit clan. Not entirely. I'm curious now. Why aren't you afraid at all? Do you still have a trump card? Do you think you can fight me? However, when he heard the Metal Man call him an invader, Luwu immediately thought of the origin of the Metal Man in front of him. After many evolutions, he had longed to be able to carry the ultimate rule. However, as he had said just now, this kind of life could not reach the end no matter how much they evolved. To Zero's regret, it was proven that his mechanical body could not carry the ultimate rule, no matter how hard he tried. Do you know who I am? As far as Zero knew, no one in the extraterrestrial world had such power. Hearing what Luwu said, a series of data flashed across Zero's eyes. If his secret was exposed, the first person who wanted to kill him would not be Zero, but the Holy Spirit King. That's right. If you want to cast a soul, I can give it to you. However, from now on, you will be on my boat. The Holy Spirit King will also be your enemy. Let's see if you dare. The reason was simple. He had done a lot of research in this area, so he knew how difficult it was to cast a soul. It was almost impossible. You led your people to attack my main base and stole a lot of my resources. Why do you think I'm looking for you? If Luwu really had that kind of power, starting a war with him would definitely cause more losses. To Zero, it was not worth it. This was because the main theme of this world was cultivation. Although technology could also become powerful, it could not become the top power. However, Even if it was only 0.001%, Zero did not want to miss it. That was why he said this. He wanted to know what Luwu wanted. If there was, it could only be the strongest, the Holy Spirit King.